something you see on the big screen. Like, do you think anyone actually has the balls to drop trout and be like, let's see what's on the other side?
I mean, speaking from experience, I know those bad boys are real.
But I mean, in a sense of like utility, like actually used. Do you think they're actually used?
I bet they're used way more frequently than you think they are.
You think so? Just like no idea what's on the other side. Things could go terribly wrong. I mean, that is the biggest risk a man could make in his entire life. It is the biggest risk a man could take in his life.
That's the
right.
So the scariest part of it to me is who cut the hole. Is it smooth? Did they sand it? Because I don't want injury.
Well, if
I'm already taking a pretty big jump. You know,
if it's used enough, it's probably like a rock that's under the river. Over time, it just
polished by the water type stuff.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The first guy's in trouble. Yeah. But I was just thinking about it today. I was like, would anyone actually have the balls to, no pun intended, to be like, you know what? Maybe I'll get lucky today, or maybe I pull out a stump.
Can we talk about the first person that ever did it? Is that a 1-to-1 equation where you're just like, hey man, check out what's on the opposite side of this wall? Or did somebody just stand there for days on end, like a hunger strike, and then just hope someone showed up to take a benefit?
The first guy was, I think, Roger Charleston IV or something. This was back in.
You could not have come up with that so fast. How did you? That was a good pull.
Thanks.
That was so smooth.
Are we
so smooth?
Are we live?
So smooth.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stochastic.com MLB Deeper Dive. 14 games, getting a bit of an early start today. Very happy to have you guys with us. I'm Dave Loughran at Lofty_D on the Twitters, joined by Josh Engleman at Josh Engleman. And we got a ton to talk about today. I mean, Adam and I got into a bit this morning. It really is a weird slate in the sense that, like, two pitchers are getting massive ownership. There's a handful of cheaper pitchers getting like 20% or so, a few. And then it's just completely flat. And then, Josh, outside of Coors Field, top stack percentage flat from all the way down almost.
It's a very, very awkward slate. When I started prepping this one this morning and looking at it, I loaded up my projections. I want to get the number right that I sent to Adam. I was like, I have Strider projected for 27.8, and I had to like go and check props and stuff because I didn't believe what I was getting. And then I saw that his strikeout prop was like minus 140 to be more than 10. And I was like, oh no, that's the right projection.
Yeah. Strikeout prop was the over was juiced at minus 140 at 10.5.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
He was more than 50% to strike out more than 10 batters at 8:00 in the morning or whatever it was. Because I assumed that I like accidentally typed in too many outs or innings or something, and he was pitching too long when I saw it. I was like, no, that's right. And then I checked another source that's up at that time, and I was like, okay, I'm only ahead by like 0.8 of a fantasy point.
Also crazy that like I was running some lineup generator lineups early in the day. I'm sure some of it's changed now with some updates, but there were some Strider Heaney lineups with 5-man Padres stacks and just poverty outfields for sure, like cheap outfields. But I was also thinking, what happens? There's still, last I looked, right? There still isn't a line for Dodgers Oakland because you have a bunch of questionable heavy hitters in that Dodger lineup. What happens if you just get a ton of cheap Dodger bats at the top of the lineup against Oakland pitching staff?
It's certainly possible. I don't like it at all.
But then Strider becomes even easier.
The good news is I won't have the Dodgers unless we happen to know that by 7:00. And I'm not confident that we do. Like, I'm not getting to them right now because I'm nervous that lineup could look a lot different today. Fantastic spot, but you know.
Yeah. Well,
Ken Waldichuk guy.
Let's Ken Waldichuk, the lefty out there on the bump for Oakland. Let's get into it. Tampa Bay, New York Yankees. Oh, by the way, happy to have you guys with us. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so. Yeah, take a single second. Get us north of 50 here. We got almost 200 people out of the gate. Hit that thumbs up. But tone for your sins. This is how it goes. It helps us greatly. Otherwise, we wouldn't ask. And just a subtle reminder. Maybe you forgot. Long day at work. You're coming home watching the deeper dive. I only ask for one more second of your time to hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it. Tampa Bay, New York Yankees, Tampa minus 115, 8-run total here. So you have Eflin on one side, and on the other side, you've got Carlos Rodon. He actually looked a lot better last time out, but I don't know what to make of the strikeout stuff right now, Josh. He's made a handful of appearances since coming off the IL. He's 5.7% owned, slight positive leverage in the top stack tool, or top pitchers tool, sorry. And then Zach Eflin is essentially just among, this is what's weird about this slate. He's among like 4 other pitchers that are in that, 10-3 to 11-1 range below Strider that are all pulling like 1 to 10% ownership.
Yeah, this is a weird one on paper because I'm getting to Rodon. I've got about 19% right now. We have him projected for 6% ownership. I'm just a believer that at some point in time he becomes himself again. And there's no real way. I can't read too much into the first 4 starts. It hasn't been good. The strikeouts haven't really been there. The walks certainly have. If we find out that he gets shut down in a bit, I wouldn't be surprised. But I just expect him to knock the rust off and become himself. And at 9K, I'm willing to take that chance, even though this isn't a great park for guys that might be walking people too frequently, because one swing of the bat becomes a little bit of a problem. And it's not all that great of a strikeout matchup. In particular, it's a really bad one. However, at 6% ownership, I think he's the guy where if he becomes himself, he's got the highest ceiling in relationship to what he's being owned. Eflin on the opposite side, I've got a much bigger problem for. Not a big strikeout guy to begin with. Not a really great strikeout matchup on the opposite side. Plenty of power in this Yankees lineup. He is probably the guy that I'm least interested in because of his price, because of his matchup, and because of his pedigree. Is he a good pitcher? Yeah. Is he a good DFS pitcher? No. And I find him to be really unappealing. Rodon is the guy that I'm just okay, he's a lottery ticket.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because if Rodon channels what we've seen from him in the past, and who knows, sometimes it does take several starts to kind of get back to where you were, right? Especially when you were out for the whole season up until a month ago or less than a month ago or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
It could just be one of those starts where it clicks and you're all right, it took him a little while to get back there. I agree. He's a lottery ticket right now, but a lottery ticket that could pay off big at that price point. And then he has a big game, and next week you're talking about him and he's $10,500.
I hope that today is the big game.
You got a lot of
3x the field. I have 19%.
Okay. Oh, that's a decent amount at him being 6% owned. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's why. If he were 12, then I'd probably just be neutral. I wouldn't have too much to say, but there's some potential for him to go out there and just look like the guy that he's supposed to be. And I'll take my chances on days like today. I mean, there's 14 it's one of the places that I think is a really realistic place to be a little bit different and still give you aggressive upside.
I don't think we'll have a ton to talk about here, but I do have to ask you because it is at Yankee Stadium. It's cooled down in the Northeast, but still a very favorable hitter-friendly park. Any bats against 2 good arms?
No. Yankees are 24th in top stack. That's out of 28 teams. Rays are 13th, which I find to be a little bit interesting, but ultimately, neither one of these teams is all that owned. Neither one of these teams are all that interesting. I don't mind one-offing some of these guys. You want to get to Aaron Judge as the final guy into a lineup and you have the money to do so, by all means. I'm never going to tell anybody to not do that. This doesn't feel like a game where you're prioritizing offense. Both pitchers are, in theory, pretty good. The game total on this one is not pointing you in the direction of a ton of offense. So I don't really see anybody that I would really want to make a push for here, other than just random one-off plays that if you think that that's a decent option, I like it. I don't see either one of these teams as a priority stack option.
Let's talk about Freddie Peralta against Washington in this next game. They're pretty big road favorites, not a bad park, minus 162 on the money line. So on one hand, you're just getting a Washington team that's dog shit across the board offensively, right? Whether it's power, 121 ISO is terrible. I think they have an 83 WRC plus versus righties. Across the board, it's bad. They also don't strike out all that much at all. One of the lowest strikeout teams in the league. So you're kind of getting a mixed bag with Freddie Peralta, but you know as well as I do, and so does the audience, that like strikeouts are king when it comes to pitchers, particularly when you have to pay a premium for them at $9,400. So how do you do that with Freddie Peralta today at 6%, knowing that the matchup has some great, but also some real bad for strikeouts?
If I'm being honest, I hate him today. He grades out really, really poorly for me, particularly in a situation of like how I can unlock him in a winning lineup. And it's because of the Nats' lack of strikeouts, because he's not the type, like, I don't expect him to just be cruising without getting the strikeouts. If he's not getting those strikeouts, it's probably not a great day for Freddie Peralta. And we see it in this Nats team. I believe they have the second lowest strikeout of any team active roster against righties. I think
Cleveland is the lowest.
Agreed. And I think Cleveland and the Nats are like very clearly the two lowest. And then there's like a bit of a gap between the next one. In Steamer's
it's Washington at 18.4% against righties, Josh. Cleveland at 17.3%. And the next closest team is Arizona at 20.3%. So yeah, good gap there.
Yeah. So Lane Thomas projects to strike out around 26% of the time against righties. Joey Meneses is at 22%. Everybody else in Steamer has a K rate in this lineup below 20% against righties. This is just a really, really bad spot to pick up fantasy points for Peralta. I don't think like the Nats offense is all that good, but this is not the type of matchup where he just ends up like if he strikes out 10 plus, that's crazy. Do we have a prop on that one? I'd like to look at that quickly too.
What prop are you looking for?
Oh, I wanted to see what his K prop is.
All right, so
I have it here. It's -134 under 5.5. And I got him projected for 5. I hate him here. And he's not getting owned. So like if you want Peralta to be your Rodon, I'm not talking anybody out of that. Similar run totals on the opposite side, similar parks in terms of power, similar talent levels, honestly. I get it. I would much rather have Rodon than Peralta.
That is a low K prop for Peralta, juiced to the under at 5.5. For him, that's a very low K prop for a $9,400 pitcher, no less.
Yeah. So like, I don't think that comes out in his regular projection. I think what it does is it doesn't allow you to get the same sort of ceiling that you would expect, but that's not seen anywhere in data. And I think that's kind of problematic. But when I see that, because he still projects all right, because he's facing a Nats team that's not all that good with a run total that's not all that appealing. I hate him in terms of like being in an optimal lineup. So he's a guy that I would actively not like to get to today.
I think you've made a good case of it, if nothing else. What about I mean, that's all you can do, right? Let the chips fall where they may, pal.
Exactly.
Josiah Gray, 20% strikeout rate, decent amount of power. The matchup is the matchup with the Brewers team is basically it's like blah as it gets. They don't do anything terribly bad. They don't do anything really well. They're just kind of there.
I have like 5% of Gray. It's just assorted dudes at the bottom that you can get to, whether it's him or Oviedo or something. I don't love it. A little bit of it scares me. He does give up plenty of power to lefties, 220 x ISO over the past 2 seasons. So someone like Christian Yelich surely stands out. Carlos Santana stands out if you're looking for a relatively cheap first baseman. Sal Frelick doesn't have the same sort of pop, but even projects as a good hitter as a rookie. There are some spots there if you want to pick off the Brewers against Gray, but can he be a decent value at 6,500 here? Yeah, it's all right. I don't like talking about Josiah Gray because he's Josiah Gray, but I do have 5%. So I at least wanted to mention that I did, but don't go out of your way to get there. It's not that kind of guy.
What about bats here? After that, we can talk to Detroit and Pittsburgh. It's kind of interesting with that Oviedo ownership.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't want the Nats. Just because I don't think Freddie Peralta gets strikeouts doesn't mean I think the Nats go out there and smack him around. So I would prefer to mostly avoid Washington. They're cheap, which is helpful, but not all that interesting. I do have 10 Brewers 5-mans. We have them 5th in top stack, 9th in top value, 4th in stack score. They're pulling a little bit of ownership, but only Yelich is in double digits. So I wouldn't pay. Honestly, ownership is basically meaningless for hitters today outside of the Padres. Like the Brewers can be 6% owned in the aggregate and one of the more owned teams. It doesn't really matter. They're not owned all that much. We're talking about 90% of lineups not having a Brewer. So I have a little bit. I like the upside because it's not out of the possibility that Josiah Gray is just really bad and the Brewers hit home runs in a home run friendly ballpark. 4.8 run apply total is enough. So I like the Brewers. I think everything about them, their top stack ranks, their ownership, it's all exactly where it should be.
Let's talk about Detroit then and Pittsburgh. I think we can just kind of get Matt Manning out of the way here. If there's anything you decide you want to talk about, go for it. But I'd like to get into Johan Oviedo a little bit against Detroit. So Detroit does have, I think, still a 4.7 total, but Oviedo 14.4%. We have him with a 6% top 2 pitcher probability in the top pitchers tool. So what's interesting to me here is that you look at Oviedo in a, not a bad spot at all. And he's very cheap. And Adam and I talked about this earlier today. I'd love to get your take on it. Even though I'm kind of fast forwarding further down the slate, I think some context is probably needed. What do you make of the fact that he is right now around 14% and an almost identically priced Jose Quintana against Kansas City in another great matchup is coming in at 1% ownership?
I'm pretty surprised. Maybe I'm not.
I
think that Oviedo is, I don't want to say over-owned, because if he's should be 8 and he's 14, I also don't think that changes anything all that much, but I only have 2%. I don't disagree with the way that we have him evaluated. You said he is 6% top 2 pitcher. I had him at 5. We have him at 19% top 2 value. I have him at 18. So I have him the exact same way. I might be a little low on strikeouts, and that's about it. I'm just under where the line is set right now. But if he's popular, or at least even just pseudo popular, I don't think that he's any sort of priority. When I see his ownership, it's not high enough for me to care, but it does make me sort of slightly more interested in the Tigers than I should be. He's a totally fine value option, but I don't think he stands out the same way Andrew Heaney does, $400 ahead of him. Those guys are significantly different plays.
Do you agree that Oviedo should be, 14% of the field's lineups? Quintana should be 1%. Miles Michaelis should be 6% against some Minnesota team that strikes out at the highest clip in the league. I'm just throwing around similarly priced cheap arms that are getting fractions of the ownership.
Yeah, if Oviedo were 10, Josiah Gray were 4, I think Michaelis at 6 is fine. I think this would all look a little bit more normal. I think Oviedo is just a little bit too high.
Okay.
But I don't think that it really matters that much at 14%. It's not quite high enough to matter.
And I will say too, it is a good park for him, hands down.
No doubt about that.
Definitely a good park. So I don't want to ignore that. Do you have any interest in Pittsburgh bats today against Matt Manning or Detroit bats? Because again, pretty good value scores on Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I probably have more interest in the bats than I do anything else. I think the Tigers are at least a little bit interesting because Oviedo is pulling some ownership. So you do get to double dip there for a team that's not pulling any ownership. Now, I don't think that they're very good, but Oviedo does give up a little bit more power to lefties. It's been worse this year, 207 x ISO. If you add in last season, it drops to 175. Either way, it's still... And that's what lefty power does in Pittsburgh. 71 righty park factor in Pittsburgh, 96 to lefties. So it plays basically neutral to lefties. And that's Oviedo's problem area. So McKinstry, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, that's a tough 1, 2, 4 in the Tigers lineup. So I like getting to Detroit. No one's owned more than McKinstry at 4%. I have 10%. This is sort of like the Brewers. I have 10 Tigers 5-mans, but I also have 10 Pirates 5-mans on the opposite side. Matt Manning is just simply not good. I don't have much else to say there. He also plays up lefty power. So again, that's helpful in Pittsburgh. Sawinski leading off for 3,500. Probably one of the better plays dollar for dollar that you're going to find today. The only problem with Pittsburgh is that the start of their stack is outfield, 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 outfield. And that's just less appealing. They don't have a first baseman. They don't have a second baseman. They have 5 outfielders and 2 shortstops with no MPEs. They're incredibly difficult to roster. I would like them so much more because they're cheap as hell. Number 1 in top value. But this is a team that's only eligible for 4 positions.
That's crazy. Yeah.
5 outfielders, 2 third base, 5 outfielders, 2 shortstops, and a third baseman and a catcher. They don't have a first baseman or a second baseman with eligibility in the lineup. So that hamstrings you a bit.
Yeah, just a tad. I know there are some other stacks though that could look real good without having to utilize the outfield spots, but and that may come into play with some Spencer Strider lineups, especially given that, you know, the Pirates aren't exactly egregiously priced, but yeah.
Yeah, like if you want to make your stack up somewhere else and then you have a 3-man outfield of Sawinski, Reynolds, McCutchen, like that'll work. That's super cheap for today against Matt Manning. But normally you're probably not getting a 5-man stack from another team that's catcher, first, second, third, short. That's tough. So
it's weird. Baltimore and Toronto. All right, let's get into this. Are we at 100 thumbs up yet? I want to make sure. I feel like this is one of those days where we should be cruising, man. We're at 83. We're at 83. I know. Look.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention to that. I got.
Oh no, I know you weren't. I was just trying to play off of that as like you showing disappointment and that we weren't there yet. What's up?
Now, I ordered a pack of Uniball pens that were supposed to be delivered today, but they are not going to arrive today, unfortunately.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Number 1 pen.
No, that's the number 1 pen right here. Mont Blanc.
Well, that's a different kind of pen.
You know how often I use that? Never.
Absolutely never, dude.
No, I just found it.
You gotta learn how to write first.
I found it a few months ago when I was cleaning out my other office, and the ink was done, so I had to order some replacements for it. And they Justine opened them up. She's like, "What is this for?" I was like, "Listen, I need pen ink cartridges. Don't worry about it." It's like,
how often do you even write on paper?
Never. Yeah. Never. If once in a blue moon I'm filling something out, an envelope out to send it in the mail, I write an address on it. And I kind of have to remember how to write.
It's getting difficult.
Does that not happen to you though? Seriously, where sometimes you write and like you have to remember? I just write in all caps now.
Do you turn the caps lock off? Do you think you could write in cursive?
Yes, but it wouldn't be like
proper uppercase letters and shit too.
Like my mom writes in cursive and it's pretty nice because that's what they learned back then.
There's no chance I can make it an uppercase S because I know you got to fucking squiggle it all over the place and I don't know which directions to go.
Yeah, me neither. I'd be backwards.
I think Q is like a real dumb letter uppercase that I don't know how to do anymore.
No, I think I know I could write my name in cursive still. That's it. I could definitely still write my name easily in cursive. That's it.
I can't do it either. If I write my full name in cursive and try to make it legible, it looks like a 3rd grader did it. And I have like decent penmanship, but now I have to be so robotic about each letter to like make sure that I'm writing it down correctly that it looks awful.
The brain and the hand don't connect like they used to, where it was just automatic. You actually have to think about it. And then when you overthink it, right, you start overthinking it and mess it up. I hear you.
There's nothing worse than writing. Like they don't teach it now, right? Like that's just not a thing, if I remember correctly.
Maybe not. I mean, the fact that they never really taught like mandatory financial classes and stuff in school to me is just the worst thing you could ever do.
You learn the dumbest stuff in school in comparison to what you should know. You should know how to like do your taxes and understand what bills are going to be. Like what's a water bill? You should understand how to like change your oil in your car. Like you should have to take.
But it shouldn't be electives. It should be that stuff should be mandatory.
Yeah. It shouldn't be mandatory that I take British literature when I'm 17.
Right. None of that stuff matters at all anymore. To some people, maybe. But like a very select group of, it's the same thing with electives in college. You take these dumb electives just so they can make you get as many credits and steal more money from you. All of those electives are bullshit. They mean
everyone needs to know finance. Everyone. Call it life skills, whatever you want to do. The day-to-day stuff that we do, how to calculate tax on a bill.
I would argue that would be the most important high school class that anybody could take. The most important high school class that anyone could take ahead of anything else. Math, English, science, geology, history, like any of that stuff. It should be the most important class.
I will say this because I went to school, my high school, arguably the stupidest place on the planet, turning out countless morons day to day.
and a murderer.
And a murderer. Correct. We had a stabbing in school in 1990 something. Anyway, it's not important.
Tough time for schools, yeah.
But before Columbine, before it was cool.
Don't.
Anyway, I had a personal financial planning class my senior year of high school.
That's awesome. You should have.
It was great. He made anybody that had a job had to do their taxes by hand in class.
That is awesome.
It's obviously we didn't have crazy nonsense. It was just report your income and then you don't have anything else.
I wish because my parents never taught me that stuff. So I learned out by just getting screwed for years,
My parents still didn't know it.
Baltimore, Toronto, Kyle Bradish. Ryu's back, Josh, making his first appearance.
Yeah.
Low 7K price point, 8.5 run total here. Pretty even on the money line.
Yeah.
Do you have interest in any pitching here? Because Bradish, if you're playing him, you're going to have to pay for him. And there's a good amount of top tier pitchers, not to mention Spencer Strider at 12.5.
I do not have any interest in either pitcher. If you wanted to roll the dice anywhere here, I think you're certainly rolling the dice on Ryu and just at 7K, hoping he captures lightning in a bottle. That said, I don't advocate for either pitcher here. I advocate for the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah.
This is one of my themes today.
Where are they? I just want to see where they're, just to set the table, where they're showing up in the top stacks tool. We've got them. Oh, all right. Yeah, that doesn't look. I mean, a lot of that does not look all that bad. But so many teams, you just have to take stands on some of these teams where the top stack probability is the same, essentially, within 1% or 2 for 20 teams.
So I am actually a little bit higher on the Orioles. We have them ranked 13th in top stack. I have them 8th. And that's just enough to push them up a little bit higher. But I think the real key to this is, why is Ryu getting any respect whatsoever? Because I don't totally understand it. If you take in the past 3 years, because you actually have to build up some sort of sample, 19.5% K rate against lefties, relatively limited sample, but if I'm going back to 2020, then I don't find it to be all that useful. 19.5% K rate to righties across 2,400 pitches. That sample will work for me. 190 X ISO to righties over the past 3 years. I can't assume that that's going to be better now. That wouldn't make a lick of sense to me. If you look at just the games that he's pitched in the minors so far, it's not going to get much better for him. That's for sure. So I'm very interested in Baltimore. He's thrown 4 innings. He's thrown 18 innings, 4 starts so far in the minors. Advanced stats, 25% K rate. Okay, that rebounded pretty well, but one of those is a garbage league. One is single A. 2 of them are in triple A. Sure. Is he walking anybody? No. But 425 FIP in all of this. Okay, he's fine. Whatever. He showed that he can go back to the majors. His previous experience in the majors doesn't look good. I think there's plenty of power here in this Baltimore lineup against lefties. Give me Adley Rutschman. Give me Ryan Mountcastle, Santander. There's only one lefty in this Baltimore lineup. Why are we giving Ryu any respect today? I don't get it. No. And we're not even getting it in the line for this game either. So maybe I end up wrong. But I think Baltimore looks fantastic at basically 0 ownership. They've got 3 guys in the lineup with MPEs. They're flexible too. They're not even that expensive.
Even before, let's say 2022, in the 6 starts he made, which did not end particularly well. A lot of power allowed, virtually no strikeouts. Even if you were going back the year before that, where he made 31 starts, you're right. It was a league average K rate, more than 1.25 home runs per 9 allowed. Even if you were to work off of those numbers and then factor in that this guy's making his first start in a year, yeah, it makes sense. I get. I'm picking up what you're putting down here.
He was 33 in 2020. He is now 36 years old, coming off of 2.5 straight seasons of either not really pitching all that much or not being all that great at it. I have no reason to expect that he got into a time machine.
Any interest in Toronto bats?
Not really. I mean, Bradish is solid. Not a guy that I really like to attack all that frequently. If you just look at his stuff, doesn't give up much power to lefties, gives up a little bit to righties. So situations against someone like Vlad is not going to be a fun experience, but he's like a slightly above average regular pitcher. If you want to get power from Toronto, I have no qualms there. I don't see them as a stackable team. Baltimore to me is the sneak tip today.
Then we'll get into this next game, which is an interesting one for a few reasons. One, Atlanta stack, you're going to have to pay for it. No doubt about it. Stacking Atlanta's top bats and playing Spencer Strider, you're going to have to request some additional salary on FanDuel or DraftKings. But 9-run total, Atlanta, massive favorites at home against Patrick Sandoval and the Angels. So the Strider thing, he's super expensive. But I mean, it's really hard not to look at this and say, yeah, this is, head and shoulders the best pitching option on today's slate. And the ownership would reflect that for sure.
He's so good, dude.
He's amazing.
So good. He's so much fun to watch. He's the thing that he's honestly part of the reason that I'm interested in baseball again. Because when I watch him, I just feel like I'm watching a jacked up Greg Maddux pitch again. He's so clinical with like the way that he's like hitting corners and stuff, but it's just like there's more speed on everything that he's doing. I love watching it. I love seeing it. He had a really bad start earlier this year when I watched it. It soured me a bit, but I mean, and it's obviously just fun to cheer for the Braves because they're awesome. I don't know how you don't want to go here. I have him 9 fantasy points ahead of the. Nope, sorry, that's not correct. That was based on salary. I have him 5.3 fantasy points ahead of the next closest guy.
And who would that be? Is that Valdez or Gallen?
Well, it's neither of those two. Actually, it is Lance Lynn.
Really?
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay. Yeah, we certainly will. And Lance Lynn, very popular today.
Yep, and he should be. But Strider's the guy that I want. If 1, 2, or 12, I never know if it's 1, 2, or 12, so it doesn't matter. If you're in chat right now, plug your ears or take a note of this and do whatever you want to do with this information. I have 87% Spencer Strider.
Ooh, okay. Hey, I mean, and even when he does give up some power, there's still 12 strikeout upside there.
That's why he's 50-50 for 10 Ks.
I know.
That's a lot.
Patrick Sandoval is about to be put through the meat grinder today, or he isn't. But dude, even if he holds up,
plus 280 for 12 plus strikeouts.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's the same line as like the A's have to win today.
Yeah, it's nuts.
This dude's going to hang like 14 Ks on the Angels.
Sandoval. Yeah. I don't really know what to say here other than he's inexpensive, but there's a good amount of inexpensive pitchers. I mean, you're walking into a buzzsaw. It's a really tough matchup. Huge dog on the road. Atlanta's got a 5.8 total. It's still hot as hell in Atlanta. I don't know what there's good to say about Sandoval here.
I mean, he's good, like in real life. 7,100 is too cheap for him in general, but here against Atlanta, I don't see it. Like if he does give up any power, generally it's to righties. He's going to see 7 of them today, and it's not like Matt Olson is like a walk in the park. Otherwise, I don't really see it. To me, there's just no upside in this one.
Are you getting to Atlanta bats? And if you are, how are you doing it? Because you have 87% Strider. So my initial assumption is that the Braves are just a natural casualty of all of that Strider ownership.
They are. And I actually have them ranked a little bit higher than we do, but I'm finding it incredibly difficult to unlock the Atlanta bats. When you've got $6,700 Acuna, $6,300 Olsen, $6,100 Austin Riley, you almost have to start stacking the Braves differently on DraftKings and making them 4-man stacks. Kevin Pillar's in the lineup. That helps. He's 2,100. Something's broken there. He's half price. It's like BOGO. You buy one Marcelo Zuna, get a Kevin Pillar for free. That said, I look, if you can build a lineup with the Braves, please do. I think they're the second best stack that you can get to today in terms of like upside. And I don't think anybody's going to argue with that one too much, but I find them very cost prohibitive if you want to go to the full 5.
Does getting to like a Valdez or a Gallon make it any easier? Because you're saving, but are you saving enough?
I mean, I think you just end up having to give up too much. Like, I like the idea of getting to them on days when the slate's a little bit smaller, but on a day like today, when you have so many other teams to get to, I think you start giving up a little bit of your win equity. Okay. I think that's the reason you don't see them all that owned. I mean, 9% to Acuna, nobody else is owned more than Kevin Pillar. And we all know why Kevin Pillar is 5% owned. He's 2,100 on the Braves. I wish I got him.
Let's go to Minnesota, St. Louis. Pablo Lopez, Miles Mikolas.
You mean I can't talk about how much of I want to roster the Angels?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You like the Angels today?
No, not at all. They play Spencer Strider.
There you go.
Just checking.
Lopez and Miles Mikolas. I assume he's good to go, right? I know he was.
I assume if he were going to get suspended, we'd know it right now.
That's what I'm saying. I would hope we would know that, but like that'd be kind of messed up if they suspended him an hour or two before his start. So yeah. I'm assuming that Mikolas should be good to go.
Same.
Pablo Lopez, good pitcher, not the best matchup. They're slight favorites, but again, if you're playing him, that means that you're giving up a lot of Spencer Strider. I'd also say, like you're going to get less of a Zach Gallen too, and a bunch of these, unless you're just really low on Spencer Strider, then you're just probably getting a lot of these type of guys. Positive leverage. But, one thing I mentioned and asked Adam today, when you look at this in the top pitchers tool, you have to kind of add context to all of this where you go, yeah, Lopez, Gallen, Valdez, Peralta, they all have like 12, 14, 13% top two probability. But that's also just because they're some of the best pitchers on the slate. That doesn't account for their value. It doesn't account for their salary. And it doesn't account for Spencer Strider here. It just means like, hey, they have a good shot at being a top two pitcher, but what are you giving up to get it?
Yeah, I'm a lot lower on Pablo Lopez here. Again, talented dude. You want to take him against the Cardinals instead of taking Framber Valdez or Zach Allen or Eflin or something. Most of these guys look the same to me. So I don't have too much to say about Lopez. He's really good. I just don't think it's like the best matchup or best spot. Mikolas is a guy that I'm not really getting to all that much at 6,900. But at the same time, if people want to roster 15% ownership to Johan Oviedo, then by all means, spend like a couple extra shekels and go to Mikolas if you want. The strikeout stuff in this spot is great because the Twins K like crazy. So it's not like Miles Mikolas is a big strikeout guy, but if he's ever going to get strikeouts, today is that day for sure. The Twins make it a lot easier to maybe sneak in an extra strike or two. But even still, in this matchup, under 5.5 Ks, minus 164. I got him projected for 4.8, so that seems to be in line. Scattered amounts of Mikolas rotated in as a value arm. That's fine. I think he's more interesting as a DFS play than Pablo Lopez, but I don't think either guy is all that great.
True Ray just said, what are your guys' thoughts on pairing Strider and Oviedo for cash game lineups? Well,
Strider Lynn.
Yeah, I was going to say it's Strider Lynn. And if it's not that, it's Heaney, but it's Strider Lynn, really.
Yeah.
For cash.
Agreed. Yep.
I mean, at that point, you're not trying to get all that much different. And
I would be very, very surprised if the prevailing lineup is not Strider Lynn.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm saying if it's not, the only real other answer would be Strider Heaney.
Yeah, I would be going to Heaney before I went to Oviedo.
Do you like bats on either side of this one? I mean, Minnesota, Mikolas doesn't allow a ton of power, but
no,
it's not exactly an ace out there. Minnesota does have some pop. You see yourself getting any bats on either side?
I don't want the Cardinals here against Pablo Lopez. That seems like a death sentence that you don't really need to go for. If you're going anywhere, you're going to Minnesota. Michael is not the kind of guy that gets touched up all that much. He's sort of like, 150, 160 XISO. Good, not great. Lefty power dies here. Julien, Kepler. You're going to get Polanco, Wallner, Gallo, all lefties, assuming that a Minnesota lineup has already been out. I haven't double checked any lineup since we started the show. Lefty power dies here, and that's sort of the problematic piece. I have a little bit because they're cheap. And I like the idea of getting on the opposite side of a little bit of Mikolas, but I don't think that you can truly prioritize the Twins. Guy that I have the most of is Ryan Jeffers, oddly enough, $2,300 catcher.
XXU1TL says Lynn Gallen with a Met stack in cash.
I don't care what he says. He's an asshole.
Why?
He came in yesterday just letting everybody know that anybody that watches this show is a moron. All we do is give out garbage information. So
sounds like an asshole.
Hit the bricks.
And please submit a request for your refund of $0 for this free content.
Yeah.
I don't understand people that come in just to talk shit. Like, just don't watch. That's the easiest way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To Lynn Gallen with a Mets stack for in cash is just so wildly incorrect as the right answer. So it's really fun. It's really fun when people come in and let you know right out of the gate they aren't good at this. Because that's unequivocally true.
But I would kindly ask he hits that thumbs up and gets us one step closer to 150 likes.
Hit the X in the top right corner and beat it, brother.
Chicago White Sox in Texas.
That felt good.
Chicago White Sox, Texas. Oh, before we do, see that behind me, Josh? That says BetMGM. Beautiful. Lion, long mane, growling in the jungle.
Rawr.
Going to safari.
I was going to say, I don't think they're in the jungle.
Where are they?
Oh, jungle. I mean, they're not. Like.
But what I do know.
I mean, I guess they are, but like they're not. That's not the way that I picture. I picture them like running through like waist high grass to go eat a gazelle or some shit.
Yeah, but it's still. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I guess.
Jungle is different.
Like this. Yeah, right. Like the Sahara, maybe the Sahara, right?
Yeah, that's what. Plains. Yeah, right. More.
I mean, there's some jungle-esque aspects to all of that stuff, but it doesn't. It's not like you're thinking rainforest or something is more jungle-esque. Yeah, I got you. I'll tell you what, though, I was trying to think of a great jungle segue. I just couldn't come up with anything. Usually I'm quick with that. But
were you a Jungle Juice guy?
No.
I mean, like, obviously I wasn't turning down a cup anytime somebody handed it to me at a party, but it was never my favorite beverage.
But hey, for real, you're getting a full month of Stochastic Plus Platinum if you're not over at BetMGM yet. So say you're in a legal sports betting state and you're like, hey, we've got preseason football coming up. I already did a video, how to win betting preseason. Went 27-10-1 against the spread last year, betting the old preseason. Big stuff. And we're back again this year. Anyone tells you there's not an edge in preseason, don't listen to them. They're wrong. But that's coming. You still got baseball, ton of other sports. Follow these directions if you want to get a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. It's $120 value. You're talking boom bust tool, the top stacks tool, the top pitchers tool, top hitters tool, ownership, player projections, not just for baseball either. Like all of our tools for PGA. You saw Adam just took down 45K or whatever it was the other day. Soccer, NASCAR, MMA, everything. And sometimes not knowing these sports is better than knowing them because you can't screw it up on your own. All that for the entirety of the month, including our premium Discord, $120 value, free for the month. All you have to do, click the link in the description or in the chat, sign up, deposit $10 and put that $10 on any bet that you want. It doesn't matter. Don't do like a futures bet because the bet settles, you get the free month. What?
I didn't even think about it like that, but you put that shit down on like a Super Bowl ticket or something, and all of a sudden you're hung out to dry till January.
Yeah, you don't want that. You want to do something that's relatively, immediate. So it settles, and then you got your free month. Plus, any bet that you make up to $1,000, if you lose, you get it all back in bonus bets, up to $1,000. So $1,000 first bet insurance, $120 subscription, all of our DFS tools for all of all the sites. And just click the link in the description and in chat. Must be 21 years or older to gamble. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. And of course, as you guys know, when you guys do this stuff, it helps support the show a ton. Help us continue to do free content for every sport that we love doing and want to continue doing. Keep the lights on. So when you support the channel, it helps us way more than you know. So if you're not there yet and you're looking for some free money and a free month, best way to do it. Appreciate you. All right. So, and also it's just an amazing deal for anybody that does it. White Sox in Texas. Since we have 30 minutes to go and still a good amount of games, we're doing fine. But there are some certain spots, Josh, that if you don't want to talk about pitchers that just aren't in good spots, feel free to just say you don't want to talk about that pitcher, and then we can move on. Jesse Schultens.
We can move on.
Okay. Thank you.
You want to go back to glory holes?
Well, on the other side of this one, I need 5 minutes at the end just to kind of put a bow on that conversation.
I would need a lot less than 5 minutes. Oh,
depends on what's on the other side, dude.
I assume that person knows what they're doing.
Probably. Yeah. They might know their way around the knife though, and that's my concern.
What do you think the first time consumer rate is there? Like, how often is there a regular and how often is it some just like wide-eyed kid?
My guess is it's like 90% regulars and then 10% of really ambitious people that look, adrenaline junkie.
You need like a friend to bring you, right?
That's what I'm saying. That's my point. Oh man, imagine if you found out, you know what? You and I'll be on a lot of strategy shows together.
Imagine if you found out what?
Nothing. We will revisit this. What do you want to do? What do you want to do with Andrew Heaney? 25% ownership, $6,600, third highest owned pitcher on the slate.
He looks really good. It's an interesting spot. I like the strikeout matchup enough. The run total looks solid. He's 6,600, which is certainly a price tag that stands out. The problem is 24% K rate to righties, 22% K rate to lefties this year. Who is he now? Will the real Andrew Heaney please stand up? This dude was striking out like 30-something% of people last year, and now he just doesn't do that. At 6,600, like that shit doesn't matter at all. I don't care what he's doing from a rate perspective. He becomes interesting. But if Andrew Heaney just happens to look anything like he used to, 6,600 is insane for him. So I'm very interested. I'm neutral to him right now, though, which I don't love. I'm going to be honest with you, but that tends to happen for me for lower dollar pitchers. And I just have such a curiosity with his strikeout rate that I do think that messes with this equation a little bit. But he's 25% owned. I have 25%. I wouldn't talk anybody out of it. He's, to me, very clearly the best pay down option, and I don't think that it's close. But if he continues to just be the guy that he's been this year, righties have touched him up quite a bit, and he doesn't get strikeouts the same way that he used to. Righty power plays up at least a little bit here in Texas. There are some scary spots. Lou Bob and Eloy is going to be like a real test for Heaney today. But there's also the possibility that he just starts to be himself again and starts getting Ks. There's massive upside on Andrew Heaney. But
you know what else is weird? Is that through his first month and a half of the season, so his first 8 starts, he had a 27% strikeout rate. 27%. Yeah. Since then, it's down to 23%. So he's seen a significant dip there. It might not seem like a lot, but a 4% decline in K rate over that stretch of time is pretty significant. So I don't know what to make of it, but
I don't like it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I was just reading chat. Was there a trade? Was there a White Sox trade that's significant here?
I don't know. I think somebody said Jake Berger got traded.
Okay. Do you have any interest in these Texas bats against the White Sox? Any interest in paying for them against Schultens?
A little bit. We got them 7th in top stack. I actually have them 5th. I have some 5-mans here of the Rangers right now. They're just not as good of a team as they normally are without Seager in that lineup. And somebody else, I believe, is out. Who am I missing? I don't know. Chad will say it. Whoever else is out for the Rangers, that's a prevalent bat. But Seager for sure. So it's not as pop heavy as it normally is. And obviously, Jonah Heim. But taking bats against Jesse Schultens in a matchup where the Rangers have a run total north of 5 in a park that plays up power on both sides, it'd be crazy to not at least want some of it. And there are you want to pay up for Adolis Garcia, who's not getting any ownership. Sure. Semien, you're paying big time to get to probably the 2 of the 3 best bats that you can get to from Texas, but you're paying up to be contrarian. I think that helps a little bit. If you guys if you just need to get away from Mitch Garver and do the rest of your stack, you're already pretty unique for Texas since he's the highest owned Ranger.
Let's talk about Cincinnati and the Cubs then a little bit here. No real considerable issues with weather or wind. Lively pulling virtually no ownership at $7,200. But Justin Steele, Josh, at 9,100 on DraftKings specifically against Cincinnati. We have him 10.8% top two probability in the top pitchers tool, 8.7% ownership. He is currently the sixth highest owned pitcher on this slate going up against the Reds tonight.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of him here. He's minus 145 to go under 5.5 strikeouts, which I do think stands out a little bit because his stuff is so extreme. 28% K rate to lefties over the past 2 years, 22% to righties. Well, in case you've looked at it or not, there's only one lefty in this lineup, and that's going to be Joey Votto. So maybe it's a bad day for Joey Votto, but if the rest of these guys are out there as righties with Steele striking out 22% of righties, that's not all that interesting of a strikeout matchup. And at 9,100, then I don't find him to be as interesting as he should be. Is there a little bit of a ceiling there? Yeah, but that strikeout prop being basically like sub 5, that stands out to me and is matching what I'm seeing. I don't mind taking shots on Steele. Just doesn't feel like a really good matchup if they're going to be trotting out so many righties.
Do you have any interest in the Cincinnati bats with how heavy they are on the right side of the plate?
No, I do not.
So is this game mostly a fade?
Yeah, I basically don't have it. I have 5% of Steele, which I don't think is like all that much to write home about. And then the next highest guy that I have is Ellie De La Cruz at 3%. Like, I just don't have any of it. If I were getting to any part of it, I think it's pretty clearly going to be Cubs bats, but I'm not really doing that either. Because here's the problem. Like, Steele doesn't strike out righties, but they also don't do shit to him. 104x ISO over 2 years, 293x WOBA. Like, they're not finding success. He's just not getting the bonus of fantasy points against them. So I think it lessens his appeal from a DFS perspective, but it doesn't make the Reds more interesting.
Right. He's just one of those guys that is not great to stack against, but also the ceiling or the upside here is significantly lower than it would be against even a 3 or 4 lefty lineup. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's move on then, because we still got plenty of games to get to. Then we'll turn this one over to Live Before Lock. Stick around. The boys coming up next. Greg Ehrenberg, Neil Orfield taking you up to lock for this 14-gamer. New York Mets, Kansas City. Verlander back to Houston, huh?
Evidently, yeah. Whatever Kate wants to do, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, you got Jose Quintana and Greinke. I had asked you about Quintana earlier in the show. Just quick thoughts on him on the lefty against Kansas City, given that it's good matchup. I don't know what to expect from him. He's not a like significant strikeout pitcher, but he is also just not a terrible pitcher. He's very cheap. The matchup is appealing. Kansas City's active roster against lefties has the seventh highest K rate in the league with a 92 WRC plus, which ranks down there towards the bottom at 24th, 144 ISO, also towards the bottom at 24th in the league. So I'm just, to set the table here on a guy like Quintana, given that he's getting zero ownership, do you see any merit to being like, hey, I'll sprinkle him in a little bit?
I don't really, if I'm being honest.
No.
If you look at anything that he's done so far this season and then, add in last year, you don't have a huge sample for lefties, but that's where the strikeouts come. Only 2 lefties in the Royals lineup. He doesn't really strike out righties. 18.5% strikeout rate across 2,400 pitches over the past year and a half. So I don't think that this is like a particularly large strikeout matchup. I don't think that the Royals guys that are in the lineup today are all that appealing from a strikeout perspective either. So I think you start running into a really difficult situation for Quintana to like hang a ton of points. Now he's 6,100. You can get by with a relatively low score today from him, but his K prop is set at 3.5, juice to the over, but still not exactly a sizable number. I think he could have a pretty solid day just because of how much power dies in Kansas City. If he just doesn't give up any home runs, he'll end up trotting out a score that looks pretty good for 6,100. But on a 14-game slate, you can't get by with like just good enough for pitching. Somebody in the 7K range down is going to go for 25 today. And I don't think Quintana really has that in his range of outcomes, even against the shitty Royals team.
Yeah, no, I only asked because he's getting 1% and the Royals are, a heavy strikeout team, bad team. And then you've got guys like Michaelis with more ownership than him. Good matchup. Oviedo, good matchup, but a lot more ownership than him. So, they're all kind of in that same bucket. And then Heaney, like you said, he's an enigma. You don't know, I don't know what he is anymore or what to expect from him. So there's a lot of uncertainty with all those guys, especially with Heaney pulling 25%.
For sure. And then please don't roster Zach Greinke.
Yeah. No. I'm telling you, he'll have another start soon where he has 0 strikeouts. He had one last time out. The whole team had one as a collective. Like, it's just, you can't get to Greinke. Do you want to get to Mets bats today against Kansas City? Second highest top stack score on the slate.
Yes and no. They're probably properly owned. I do have a small amount of them. And anytime that you can face Zach Greinke, it feels like a thing that you should do because he's Zach Greinke and he's like my age. He just shouldn't be in the majors anymore. He doesn't strike anybody out. He gives up massive, massive power to lefties. So, like Nimmo, for instance, Lindor hitting from the left side, Vogelbach. Like, there are some problem areas here for the Mets. Has their lineup come out yet? No, they haven't. I should grab lineups next time you do a read or something. There are appealing pieces of this Mets team, but 80 park factor to righties, 80 park factor to lefties in Kansas City. It's not the kind of park where you just start smacking the ball around. You can score some runs here and chase Greinke, but it's not a great power park. I am getting to some. I have 10 5-man stacks of the Mets, and I think that's about where I'm going to be. It's not a team I want to get over on because I think they're about properly owned, but there's certainly a path to just smashing Greinke really quickly.
You're talking like you're in a glory hole.
I mean, I'd like to be, depending on what's on the opposite side.
Jordan, can you update the Oakland and Dodgers line for me? We got one now. Dodgers minus 325. But
I had it at plus or minus. I had it minus 200 plus 200. That was my guess earlier today. So it's probably pretty close.
Well, it's never going to be minus 200 plus 200.
Well, yeah, I don't need to take in. I don't need to make fake juice up to put a line in my spreadsheet. I don't need to take that into account.
I thought you were saying like what would actually be on the books, but right.
No, I had it like break even plus or minus 200.
Put plus 260 next to Oakland, and then the total is 9. Thanks. What about bats here? Anything else you want to get to?
Give me 1 second. I just pasted in all the lineups that had come through since we started the show. So I just want to make sure I still have everything here.
You're good. Any other bats?
No, like I'm not going to the Royals. So They're cheap. They're third and top value. So there is that piece of it for you, but it's not all that great to me.
Ben Stackham in chat said, have yet to play enough to buy any tools, but listening alone helps me a ton. Hell yeah, man. Look, that's why we do free content. And then when you guys are ready, if you wanted to try them, we got something for everyone. Like the lineup generator's half off the first week. It's $4.48 for the first week.
You can't beat that deal. That's the best deal that we have on the site, unless you've got $1,000 sitting around for BetMGM.
I say it all the time. Yeah, all the time. Well, especially if you're a lower dollar player, like even if you're playing $2 a day, because how many times in the past 3 weeks alone, just for MLB, have we seen countless screenshots of like, I played it in the $1. I played 5 lineups, won 1,000. Played it in the quarter, 20 entries in the quarter, won 1,000, won 2,500 in the mini max, like on a tool that you paid less than $450 for the first week. And I mean, it's really lineup simulator light in the sense that it's simulating lineups, spitting out the best ones. You can upload them to CSV and select your own stack type, see what the optimal projection is, see how chalky it is. Like it is, in my opinion, if you're somebody that doesn't have a lot of time, or is playing with a smaller bankroll and is just looking for a tool to give you and make you better lineups than you make yourself, I don't think there's a better answer out there in the industry. And I say that with all sincerity.
It's the best tool that exists for the average player by a mile.
But these average players, a lot of them are winning good money with it and actually bolstering their bankroll and putting themselves in a spot where it's like, all right, now I can move up from the quarter to the dollar, or the dollar to the, the $4, the 20 max or stuff.
I was gonna say, even just like instead of just playing $1 lineup, playing a 3 max of 1, 2, 3 lineups, or you're paying $3. Like even just tripling your the amount of lineups after you hit that first one is massive for you. And so easy to handle in the lineup generator. A couple extra button clicks, and now you have 3 instead of 1.
Yeah. Plus, it's fun to use and go through the lineups, discard the ones you don't like, save the ones you do. You can lock and swap players, but I always recommend that you don't go crazy with that because you're defeating the purpose of getting plus EV lineups. But yeah, check it out. Link in the description and in chat if you want to, and you're interested in these tools. $448 for the first week, or you go Stochastic Plus Platinum for all of our tools for all the sports. That's 50% off everything. Yeah, we got you. All right. Cleveland, Houston. Let's do it.
Okay.
Gavin Williams, Framber Valdez.
Yeah.
And hey, on another slate without Spencer Strider, Valdez
really hard to want to take Gavin Williams here against the Astros. They're good. They're not the same sort of Astros lineup you typically see, but still really good. 6,700 works. Not going to go deep enough into the game, though. What's up? What am I missing?
Nothing. It was weird. Like I was setting it up, and you never.
I can't hear you.
That must be. Can you hear me, Jordan?
Jordan, you can hear him? I can't hear you. I can hear you.
You can't hear me.
Jordan, I could hear you. Laffy, I could not hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No, but I don't think you're talking either.
No, I swear to God, I am.
What's happening? Who's screwing with me here?
Weird. Take your AirPods out. Put your AirPods back in.
So now I hear you.
Oh, you hear me now?
Yeah.
No, I swear to God. That's why Jordan and I were looking. I was setting it up with Framber Valdez being like, yeah, on another slate, he might be really popular, but not with Spencer Strider. And as I'm saying it, you're just like, yeah, I don't know if I want to put. And I thought you were going to tell me he wasn't on the slate anymore or something. That was weird. That was really odd.
I stopped hearing you, but when Jordan popped in, he was immediately in my ears.
You thought I was fucking with you and lip syncing for.
Well, the next time you said it, it looked like you were just mouthing words with no volume.
I've done that a lot where Jordan walks away from the computers to come back and stress him out. But no, not in that case. Anyway, Gavin Williams and Framber Valdez. Floor is yours, brother.
Yeah, so I was looking a little bit more at Gavin Williams just because of the value piece and letting you know that that's probably not a spot you're looking to get to against the Astros because the Astros are good. And like, you don't like rostering pitchers against guys that are really good. Framber Valdez, on the other hand, 11,100 here against Cleveland, 6% owned. I think he looks so much like, was it Eflin earlier that we talked about? Like, there are no strikeouts. No, it was Freddie Peralta. So I think Framber Valdez is like the Houston version of Freddie Peralta today. There are no strikeouts in this Cleveland lineup. There are no strikeouts again for Cleveland, generally speaking. I have very little interest in Framber Valdez because at 11-1, you need the strikeouts at that point, or he needs to throw like a complete game and then it doesn't matter. I don't expect him to do that. And if he's not doing that, then I don't expect a ton of Ks. And that's where it starts to become problematic. Under 5.5, minus 155 on Valdez's Ks. This is just a really bad spot to pick up strikeouts. If you got to pay the full freight for Framber Valdez, that's not as interesting to me. So I like both pitchers normally. I don't like them for DFS today.
Valdez in the worst. It was it wasn't, by the way. It was Peralta who we talked about. Are you talking about the bad strikeout matchup for a good pitcher?
Yeah, it was Peralta.
It was Peralta, yeah.
Yeah.
And we said the only team with a lower K rate this season than Washington is Cleveland.
Right.
So,
yeah, I hate this spot. And I don't have either guy, so it makes me feel good.
Cleveland's strikeout rate on their active roster versus lefties is 17.4%.
And that's how I have it projected too. So it's not even just skewing good.
No, not at all. It's a tough spot, man. Actually, Houston 17.4% against lefties too. Not that matters at all. And Gavin Williams is a righty, but do you like Houston bats against Williams?
Not really. He's good, or at least average. They're 8th in top stack. I am much more pessimistic on Houston here. You want Altuve, you want Kyle Tucker, you want Bregman. Like, if you want Kyle Tucker as a one-off for 5,700 today, by all means. But I don't think Houston is like all that interesting. They don't grade out all that well. They're not getting any ownership, so that'll help. And I certainly don't want Cleveland on the opposite side. It's another one of those games that's just like a clean stay away for me.
San Diego, Colorado, Padres minus 175, 12.5 run total here. 7.5 run implied total for the Padres, 23% top stack probability. Now, for those of you who, might be new to the channel, like our buddy who was just mentioning that earlier, that he was new to the channel. I saw a couple of them earlier today on the strategy show. If you don't have the tools, all good. We reference them all the time. Jordan can screen share them too. Why don't you put this one up on the screen, Jordan? The top stacks tool. We have top stack probability, so the likelihood that they're going to be a top stack today. 23% in the grand scheme of things still means that there's a 77% chance they won't be. But we have top value score. How good is the value on this stack? Aggregate ownership, leverage, and the stack score, which is taking, ownership, value, all a top stack, all that stuff. The fact that on a 14 gamer, Josh, San Diego, and we can talk about weather, but is 23%. And the next closest team is 7, and then there's no one else, no other team above 5. That is crazy.
They're on a completely different level, and they make it really difficult to talk about because it's really just like a whole different scenario. Yesterday, Adam jammed the shit out of Colorado and San Diego, and I had none of it. I pulled the game. So I had like 5 different regular stands across the slate. And then Adam basically just had this game. Neither one of us made any money yesterday. Every single person that Max entered the relay throw yesterday on DraftKings lost money.
Wow.
Everyone. No one that Max entered finished in the top 20.
That is crazy.
It was such a dog shit slate yesterday.
How many Max entered? Did you how many Max entered?
I want to say 47, but that sounds like too high of a number. But the reason that it jumped out in my head just feels correct. I'll have it immediately. 64. That was wrong. It was more.
64.
64. Okay. Everybody lost money. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 7 guys lost less than $1,000. Everyone else lost 1,000 or more.
That's 9,600 lineups, none of which finished in the top 20.
Yeah, it was not
crazy.
Ideal.
So then what do we do?
Highest one finished 21st. Yeah, so I'm going to say what I'm doing. Y'all can do whatever you want to do here. I will not have a Padres 5-man stack today. They are basically going to be the nuts on today's slate 1 out of every 4 days. I'm just hoping it's not today. I am using them as filler. They can show up in anything. I have 11% Kim, 17% Tatis. That's 17% Tatis, not in a stack anywhere. 12% Soto, 14% Machado. I'm getting the guys that have a real pulse for the Padres, but I'm only getting them in lineups that have other 5-man stacks. This is going to hurt me, potentially, if the Padres do exactly what they're supposed to. But I'm not going to have the San Diego Padres. If you want to run San Diego Padres stacks out there, be my guest. This is very clearly the team that is the most likely team to be the highest scoring team today. And it is not close. There is a chasm. We shouldn't even be allowed to say another team finishes second because that's how big of a gap there is.
It's huge.
I don't have anything else to add here for San Diego. They're playing in cores. The run total's massive. I don't even think they're all that, they're not that overowned.
No.
I don't even think that they're really overowned.
I mean,
they're expensive.
In our tool, we have them slightly underowned with positive leverage.
Do we?
Mm-hmm.
Last time I pulled the top stacks tool, they were a little bit under their ownership number with stack score.
Yeah, it updated for which is good because we had Weathers in there earlier and it's Avila. So
yeah.
But yeah, slight positive leverage for San Diego today, despite all of that. Crazy.
They're great. There's nothing else that I can say. The matchup's fantastic. Every single thing is fantastic for San Diego. I'm hoping that if they're not that team, that I have an easier path to the top.
All right, we got to speed it up a little bit here.
Okay.
What about
Colorado? Well, I'm jamming the Rockies. So
speed
that up. Yeah, I hate it. I don't know why. A lot of it is probably Strider related. But they're 3rd in top stack, 5th in top value, 9th in ownership. Maybe these guys just come in a little bit more owned than what we're projecting because that gap looks big. And I don't want to say that I love the Rockies because they suck. These guys are dog shit, but it's a really nice spot. Runs are up, power's up. Avila is not very good, and nobody else that's coming in. I don't think you're getting the nuts out of the Padres today. The highest owned guy is Brandon Rogers at 9%. I have many multiples here, so sign me up for the Rockies side of this one. and not for the side of the Padres. But I probably have like a comparable amount of the Pods. It's just not in stacks. I actually do have Rocky stacks.
Okay. So you have a decent amount of Padres scattered about, just not as huge.
9% aggregate Padres.
Oh, okay. All right.
But none of it is in a 5-man.
Right. And a lot of that, again, goes back to Spencer Strider.
Yes, it does.
Boston and Seattle. We're going to, by the way, normally I wouldn't be so happy about this, but because like on an NFL show, deeper dive, live before log on a Sunday, we'll hit 1,500 likes sometimes,
Yeah.
But I think we're going to hit 200 likes on a Tuesday MLB show with almost 900 with us. That seems like one of the high watermarks of the season, and we're in August.
It is good. I don't want to rain on our parade, but Tuesday is like sneaky the best day of MLB.
It kind of is.
You get the massive slate. You get the 100K up top on DraftKings. That goes away starting tomorrow.
Friday's the big slate, but it's also Friday night, so you're going to get less people. But,
yeah, nobody's doing dick on a Tuesday. You're just hanging around and playing DFS.
But still, shout out to you guys. Appreciate it. Make our jobs a whole lot easier. Boston, Seattle.
This one's easy.
Yeah, 8-run total. Brian Bayo, Bryce Miller. Fire away, dude. We got live before lock coming up after this.
Bryce Miller's 2% owned. He's 9,200. That's what he should be owned. He's really difficult to get to here against Boston. Brian Bayo is 8,900. He's 2% owned. That matches the things that are coming out of like our top pitchers tool. These guys should be around like 5% owned. It's not all that interesting. And then you get to the hitting. Mariners were 24th. The Red Sox were 18th in top stack. This is a game that just shouldn't exist for anybody. There's not a ton of upside in Miller or Bayo because they're not massive strikeout guys. And there's not a ton of upside in Seattle or the Red Sox because Miller and Bayo are both solid enough pitchers. There's no ownership going to the hitters. So if you want to take a stand on the talent of Seattle or the talent of Boston, I think that's a reasonable thing to do. But this is also a pitcher's park. Plays down runs big time. This is like a big red X for me, but I would not be surprised if one of the 4 key pieces of this game does something well, because there's just a lot of talent. There's so much power in this game that's scary. That could be a deciding factor, but I'd rather get to these guys for like one-offs.
How about Arizona? And by the way, 209, we hit it. We're in business. Arizona and San Francisco. Zach Gallen, Alex Cobb, 2 good arms. Gallen's just super interesting to me here because I think, and Adam and I discussed it this morning, he could be very popular if this slate had as many games as it does and just didn't have Spencer Strider. Like, it's a good strikeout matchup. It's an ideal pitcher's park. It's not like San Francisco doesn't offer, some power that they're not a good team. But Gallen's a good pitcher with a high strikeout rate. Almost everything's working in his favor here. So I'm not surprised to see that he has a 12.9% top play probability, 13% ownership. But again, you're paying 10.5 for him, and that means that you're sacrificing some Strider in the event that you're getting there because you can't pair him. And if you do, you're getting some real cheap stacks. Yeah,
so I don't really have him, but that's not a indictment on Gallen. It just so happens that I have Strider twice as much as the field. So I took everything that I could get at the top and I just went only to Strider. But I think he's properly owned at 13%. I don't think we're missing out on anything here, given the fact that Strider exists. He's matching that top pitcher odds, and I think that's about right. Similar for Cobb on the opposite side. Good pitcher, not a massive strikeout guy, not a great strikeout matchup against Arizona. The park is helpful here because you don't expect either guy to get bombed because it minimizes power so much. And 8,200 certainly works for Cobb, but I don't see either pitcher as a priority, but if you're going to someone, it's pretty clearly Zach Gallen.
Lowest total on the slate at 7.5.
Yeah.
2 good arms, terrible park for hitting. Any interest in bats here before we wrap it up with Oakland and the Dodgers?
Yeah, well, I better be the beauty in this one.
Yeah, don't tell Josh that he's the beast because he'll.
To be fair, though, Adam's a bit of a beauty when you watch that weightlifting video I sent you.
You knew where I was going.
Yeah.
I was going to say, don't make you pull out the Trump card here.
Can we show that on a strategy show?
No.
Okay.
Maybe if
that was a quick no, dude.
Maybe. I had a few the other day and I was telling you should. But then, you wait, I'm like,
I mean, even I sent the message of, we can't do that.
No, we can't. We can't do that.
Jokes aside, dead serious. I haven't had a chance to ask you this face to face. It looks like him, doesn't it?
Yeah, I told you, other than the lats and the abs.
Got the DNA in the face. Perfect.
If we knew that our time was wearing thin here, I'd be like, just fire.
Yeah, because I would then get just fired.
Yeah.
I'd get a DM from Tom being like, look, you're not wrong, and it was funny. You got to work somewhere else.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I laughed.
Yeah. That said,
I'm getting a lot of emails.
As a business owner.
That's exactly what happened too.
Oh, yeah. He unequivocally would find that funny. Anyway, don't roster Giants bats or Diamondbacks bats, obviously.
Greg and Neil coming up next. They're taking you guys all the way up to lock. Don't go anywhere because they got a lot to break down for you. Oakland and the Dodgers. And remember, like I said, lineup generator, guys, super cheap, less than $4.50 for the first week. Go win some money like the other people using it, or take 50% off all our tools. And if you want just all of the tools for all the sports and the lineup generator, just sign up on BetMGM, put a $10 bet down, let it clear, win or lose, and you got it. And get all your money back in bonus bets if you lose. All right. Oakland plus 260 against the Dodgers. Do we by any chance have a lineup out for the Dodgers?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can look.
I figured not, but it would be interesting. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Yes, we do. And Betts is in it. Smith is in it. So Martinez is the only one that isn't in it of the three that were questionable.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I figured that might be why we had a line. Dude, they waited a long time to post a line for that game today.
They sure did. Yeah, I got to update this one shortly, but all it's going to do is get me more Lance Lynn. That's the key talking point here. 7.5 strikeout line on the books, and that is basically even action. The A's strike out a bunch. They're terrible offensively. The only thing that Lance Lynn really has to worry about today is power, because power plays up pretty big in Dodger Stadium. But as a matchup, this is the guy. He fully justifies 40% ownership as far as I'm concerned, because he's just expected to pick up so many strikeouts. Now, we do have to worry at least a little bit about the fact that he's given up like a 300 ISO to lefties, and they're trotting out, at least in the projected lineup, a few lefties. And these lefties have power. Bleday, Seth Brown, Cody Thomas. Like, it's not a fun stretch of lefty power, but these guys are also not aggressively talented either. I love the idea of getting to Lynn as a value option. I have 40%. That's probably going to go up a little bit now that the line is even better for Lance Lynn and not as good for the A's. So I have nothing else to add here. Lance Lynn, very clearly the SP2 in cash.
Last question, and this is based off something that Adam astutely pointed out this morning. If the Oakland lineup comes out and it's just littered with lefties, I know on one hand you're like, it's Oakland lefties. But on the other hand, I think Lance Lynn is allowing something like 3 home runs per 9 to lefties. I mean, just been battered by lefties. Still a reasonable, a respectable K rate versus lefties, but heavy lefty lineups, no matter who it is, are worse for him. Does that matter at all to you, or is it just Oakland?
I mean, it just increases the opportunity for him to give up like 2 bad pitches and get bombed.
Yeah.
Because lefty power, 120 park factor in LA, like that is an issue.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bet on Oakland being all like 7,900 just works for me. I like Lance Lynn a lot today.
We'll wrap with Dodger bats. We have the lineup and almost everybody's in there against the left-handed Ken Waldichuk. What are you doing with this team tonight?
Based on what I had before we started this show, or 15 minutes ago, I have them as my most over-owned stack. This is a team that I'm not getting to that is getting ownership. They're 3rd in ownership overall. We have them 7th in top stack, 23rd in value, 13th in stack score. This is a team that I am actively avoiding, and I just hope that it's a good day, because obviously it's an all-star team, but I think they're the most over-owned team on the slate.
Any Oakland stacks or individual Oakland lefty bats worth spreading out in cheap, to get cheap lefties in there in Strider lineups with expensive stacks?
Yeah, if you want to go against Lance Lynn, Bleday, Seth Brown, Cody Thomas, Tyler Soderstrom, that's 4 dudes right there, 3,400 or cheaper, 2 of them with MPEs, 1 of them with a catcher MPE. I'm focusing on lefty power bats from Oakland.
Yeah. Hey, follow Josh at Josh Engleman, me at Laffy_D. Shout out to Jordan Klein for producing this one. We will be back with you, sometime soon. Strategy show tomorrow, but more than anything, live before lock coming up next. Neil Orfield, Greg Ehrenberg taking you up till 7:05 first pitch. We'll see you guys later. Appreciate you hanging out as always. Stick around. Live before lock coming up next. Peace.
We would have just.
What is happening, everybody? It is Tuesday night, and our friend Eric Lindquist actually going away on vacation. So it's going to be myself and Neil Orfield handling all the MLB live before lock duties on the next few days. So as you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also check out BetMGM. They're sponsoring our show today. And if you guys sign up at BetMGM for the first time using the link that we have below, you get 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. So pretty similar to the deal we have with PrizePicks, which, by the way, the PrizePicks one also works. But I know for a lot of people, like myself, you might live in a state that has legalized sports betting. You don't have access to PrizePicks. You sign up at BetMGM and you get the same deal, 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. But then also always keep in mind that if you're in a state that does have pick'em sites and doesn't have legalized sports betting, you could always sign up at PrizePicks as well to get your 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. But today, BetMGM, link in the description box, 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum when you sign up. But if you or anybody you know has a gambling problem, you got to call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER because we're trying to be responsible around these parts. Neil, what's happening?
Not a whole lot running through I just finished my 2000 Sims. I didn't get through 5,000 before the show. I just got through 2,000, but I'm going to run with it. Was just trying to do some drafts on Underdog before starting the show. Got a few of those out of the way. So I'm ready to talk some DFS. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I've got 10,000 lineups that I've built out because the Sims tool, you can now upload up to 10,000 lineups. Now, here's the issue, though, is that while I fully intend to regularly upload 10,000 when I can, the Pittsburgh Pirates, because they are a no good, very terrible team playing against another no good, very terrible team, the Detroit Tigers, no lineup yet for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So I am a little concerned that we're not going to get this lineup until like 20 minutes before lock. And then, I might not be able to build out another 10,000, but I've got 10,000 for right now. I might have to go with 2,000 when I build out my final set of lineups just to be able to keep up with whatever this dumb Pirates team is doing because of trade deadline.
Are the Pirates
nonsense.
a big part of your plans today?
Sorry, what's that?
Are the Pirates a big part of what you're doing today?
They're not a big part of what I'm doing today, but I'd like to have, accurate lineups uploaded.
Sure.
I don't want it to be like players who are traded from the Pirates end up showing up in my lineups or anything if they get traded right before it starts. I mean, the other thing I could do too is I guess I could just remove them entirely, and then that would be something to make myself, not have to deal with them. But if I look at my top 150 lineups right now, I have 3% Pittsburgh stacks. So, would it be the end of the world if I remove them? No. Would they end up going out and be the highest scoring team and make me want to jump off the top of my house potentially? So we'll see. We'll see when that lineup comes out and how I want to rearrange for stuff. But I do everything built out, considering all the current information we have. I can't control when these teams do or don't release their lineups. But Pirates, help us out. As for I see in the chat out of the corner of my eye, where the fuck is Eric? And I realized it was you who sent the message.
Yeah, where the fuck is Eric? No, I'm always on Tuesday, by the way, but I just learned like an hour ago that I'm on all the live before locks all week, which totally happy to do, but I didn't realize it until today. Where's Eric?
Yeah, he's on vacation. He's found a state that is allow him near elementary school, so he's gonna do some sightseeing for the week, and we'll see. He'll enjoy himself from the bushes. And
is it going to allow him to sports bet where he's going?
I don't know. Well, he right now lives in LA, which doesn't allow, he's got a whole process, got to get buddies to put it, which is a whole pain in the ass for him. So it can't be worse than his current situation in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if he went on vacation so that he can sports bet.
We've got Rick Jones saying he's playing golf. That is what he's telling people. Jay Brown saying a hot dog eating contest. Malukar saying behind bars. Not quite yet, but potentially in the future if they catch him. It all depends on what ends up happening.
Trying to find some holes in some bathrooms.
Exactly. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with a little glory hole. But if you commit a misdoing and they don't catch you, did you really do anything wrong? Eric tends to think not. I don't know. I totally agree with him, but it's neither here nor there. Baseball slate today, we've got a shit ton of games. We got 14 of them to break down here. And as per usual, we're going to start by talking about the pitching options here, Neil. And it's crazy. We have such a big slate. But even though we have all of these options, the field is still gravitating towards a couple of spots. It is Lance Lynn and Spencer Strider. Lance Lynn projected for 45% ownership over on DraftKings, Strider at 40%. But let's start by talking about the high-end pitchers. When you see Strider, 12,500 against the Angels, projected for 40% ownership. I think by the way, this is probably the easiest cash game build to make on DraftKings for a 14-game slate ever at pitcher because you're going Strider and Lance Lynn. But for tournaments, at the pay upside, do you like being overweight to Strider 40% at the field or underweight?
Let me see so I would not mind being overweight to the field on Strider if I get there. Doesn't look like I am though. Looks like I'm actually underweight to the field on Strider. I have just 26%. I don't love it. I don't love being a 26% Strider. It is because I'm getting to a boatload of the Padres. So I'm spending up at bats instead of pitcher right now. I might actually give Strider a little bit of a boost though to flip my bills a little bit, because right now I have 66% Tatis. I've got 52% Kim, 42%. So I just have a ton of the pods, and I would rather spread that out a bit more. So I think I'm going to actually boost Strider I think I want to be above weight to the field on Strider. He's just so much better than everybody else. Great matchup with the Angels. A little bit of negative leverage in the top pitchers tool, 42% ownership, 32% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. But again, we've talked about it many times. Like, even if he's the 3rd best pitcher on the slate, even though you have to pay up for him, I'm still probably willing to accept that. And that's still really good top 2 pitcher odds. So yeah, sign me up for Strider. I think I'm going to end up overweight to the field on him. How about you?
His combination of ceiling and floor is so ridiculously high because of the strikeout stuff.
Yeah.
You get this guy here who, like, here's a bad start for Spencer Strider. A couple weeks ago, he pitches against the White Sox. He pitches terribly. He gives up a whole bunch of runs. He gets hit really hard. He finishes with 19 DraftKings fantasy points because he still strikes out 10 guys in a bad outing. And that's what we've seen from him as of late. These are his last handful of starts. 10, 13, 10, 11, 9, 10, 9 strikeouts. And the problem with Strider, too, is that if he has one of those ceiling starts, you just need to have him, right? If you get one of these starts where he doesn't give up runs, you always know he's striking at least around 10 guys out. So I find him fairly difficult to get away from. If I look at my exposure to him right now, I'm about close to the field on him just because he is so popular. But a lot of times when you're seeing these highly priced pitchers projected for 35, 40, 45% ownership, I don't end up with a ton of them. But I'm right there with Strider. He's about half of my lineups today, and I'm totally fine with that. He's really expensive. I like getting to Coors Field as well, but he's the best fantasy pitcher we have in the entire league by a mile. For my money, I think he's period the best pitcher in the league because of his strikeout stuff. I know he's had some home run issues at times this year, but yeah, I'm going to be playing a whole bunch of Spencer Strider. And on the flip side too, I think that Lance Lynn is a good piece of chalk that we'll talk about in a second. But if you're pivoting off of Strider and you're playing a different pay-up option, who is the most likely pivot on the high end that you're getting to, or is it nobody?
Probably Framber Valdez. Little bit of extra bonus with Josh Naylor being out too. Already liked Framber Valdez quite a bit here. Looks great in the top pitchers tool. 5% projected ownership, 14% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Fine matchup with Cleveland that, yeah, again, looks a little bit better with Josh Naylor out of the lineup. He's obviously expensive, but I think worth paying up there for Framber Valdez. He's got the 2nd best top 2 pitcher odds on the slate and has lower ownership than a lot of the players behind him. So yeah, it'd probably be Framber Valdez for me. How about you?
If I'm going to differentiate at pitcher, just kind of looking through some of my lineups here, and I've got a ton of Coors Field, which we're going to talk more about in a little bit, and then at pitcher, I really am pretty, like, I've got 40% of Spencer Strider right now. So right in line with the field. Like I said, close to half of my lineups. If I'm going to differentiate from Strider, it's just going to be going to 2 cheap pitchers to pay up for more Coors Field.
That makes sense too. Yeah. I mean, he just has such good odds of outscoring all the top pitchers that I don't hate that thought either.
And then, I mean, when we talk about, Lance Lynn a second, to me, that's just a piece I can't get away from at all with his strikeout upside, the matchup against the Oakland A's. But, beyond Strider and Lance Lynn, the ownership just becomes so spread out. You had mentioned right there, potentially paying up for Valdez in lineups that don't have Strider, and you got Valdez at a very reasonable 5% ownership. I do think that's a good way to differentiate. I just don't get to him in, like a crazy amount of lineups. Let's see, Valdez right now, I have him in 7% of lineups. So like a little bit overweight to the field, but nothing. He's not a significant portion of my build. I'm really riding with a lot of chalk at pitcher in terms of Strider and Valdez. And it's going to be hard for me to look at it elsewise just because of the upside of Strider and then just the absolute misprice on Lance Lynn making his debut for the Dodgers and, Los Angeles, fairly pitcher-friendly park, going up against the A's, which is also just a spot where, like, what's been more favorable than going up against the Oakland A's this year. So I get to a bunch of him on the low end, and then guys like Pablo Lopez, Zach Allen, I'm just really not getting to at all. Are any of these other pay-up options meaningful at all in your exposures?
No, so I'm looking at it. I'm getting to the most I'm actually getting of anybody is Josiah Gray. Currently, I have in 58% of my lineups. I'm going to negative boost him to get to less. But yeah, none of the pay up options outside of Strider I'm getting to in any kind of meaningful way. So I was answering the question of which pay up option would you like to get to next after Framber Valdez, but I'm right with you that, like, for the most part, I'm going to Strider or I'm paying down at pitcher. So yeah, not getting to any really other pay up options in any kind of meaningful way outside of Strider.
All right. And by the way, if you guys have any questions for us, let us know in the Discord channel, or if we got a super chat like Jeff Williams here, let me know what it is that you guys have on your mind you want to ask us about. But super chat from Jeff Williams. Jeff says, will the Dodgers have a short leash if or when he has a blow-up inning? So referring to Lance Lynn there. And then he says Rankini, Ryu, and Lynn for a single bullet. Listen, even if you want to say that they're going to have a short leash with him, which there's never been a team that has a short leash with Lance Lynn, right? And I also do not expect in any way for him to get blown up by the Oakland A's today. Lance Lynn is by far my most rostered player today. Lance Lynn is number one, way too cheap, making his debut for the Dodgers against the Oakland A's, but he's also shown to have a lot of strikeout upside this year. If we pull up Lance Lynn's strikeout numbers this year, and sure, there's been some individual starts where he's gone up and given up runs, but I mean, he's priced as if he's pitching against the Atlanta Braves today or something like that. And sure, he's got the 6.47 ERA, the 5.21 FIP, but if we're just talking upside here, 27% K rate, he's at home. He's got one of the easiest matchups in the world here against the Oakland A's. And this has always been a pitcher in Lance Lynn that's had kind of a rubber arm and has worked deep into games. Now, he's had knee issues in the past. He's a little bit older, but there's never really been concerns of like teams limiting him to 80 or 85 pitch counts. Even last year when he's coming back from knee injury, almost immediately the White Sox were letting him throw like 100, 110 pitches right out of the gate. So I don't really have any concerns with his pitch count. Now, the other part of this that Jeff asked, he wants us to rank Heaney, Ryu, and Lynn for a single bullet in the 888, or should he pay up for Peralta? So of those guys, I'm going to say Lynn 1, Heaney 2, Ryu 3. I'm much more concerned about Ryu's pitch count than Lance Lynn's. Ryu is making his first start of the season, coming back from Tommy John surgery. Hasn't pitched at the big league level in a year. He did make it through 6 innings in his last rehab start, which is promising, but still his first start at the big leagues in a year. He's not somebody I'm all that interested in. Lynn 1, Heaney 2, Ryu 3 for me. How about for yourself? Lynn, Ryu, Heaney, rank them.
I'm right with you. Yeah, it's pretty easy ranking for me too. Like I think it's like very clearly I like Lynn the best, Heaney second, and Ryu third. Maybe the top two. Like you can make an argument for lower owned Heaney against the White Sox, but yeah, I think it's pretty clearly for me Lynn, Heaney, and then Ryu. Also.
All right, so here's something else that I think we have to do as a game right now. It is a 6:24 Eastern time. The slate locks in about 40 minutes. What time does this Pirates lineup come out? We'll do an over-under.
I'm gonna go 49. So 6:49 Eastern.
Oh my God. Well, that's very late.
Yeah.
Very late. I have a little more faith in you. I'm going 6:32, 8 minutes from now.
All right. So I'll go with your over-under, and I'm gonna say it's gonna come after that.
Oh, well, that's I'm just asking to throw out a time. By the way, if people in the chat want to guess as well when you think that Pirates lineup is going to come out, let us know here. I'd like to see who it is that they're going to be playing today. By the way, another super chat from the boy from Cali, 12. He said, thanks to Greg and the boys. Keep up the good work. Coors game weather concerns. So no concerns about Coors Field today, but also, Jordan, we've got a screenshot in my run sheet from the boy Cali 12, which, by the way, this is not the same screenshot from last week because he left us one the other day where he won a single entry tournament. No. This is a new one. Another tournament takedown by the boy from Cali 12. Messaged me over on Twitter and said, like, hey, had this win and wanted to know if he could get shouted on the show. And of course, whenever you guys have a win in a tournament, add us on YouTube, add us on Twitter, and we can shout out on YouTube. But a boy from Cali 12 won the Chin Music single entry yesterday, won $500. So love to see that. Congrats on the win. And keep it up, man. That's about 2 over the course of a week or so. And love to see people that are making some money. And anybody else, you ever want to make some money in DFS? Don't forget, you can always sign up for any of the tools we have at Stokastic.com using the link we have below. Platinum Pass, which is going to include all of our tools and projections, 50% off if you sign up for the first time using the link that we have below. And also, another way that you guys can get free access to all the tools we have here, download the Stokastic avatar. You put it on your FanDuel, DraftKings handle, and then when you win a tournament with that avatar, you add us, and then you get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. So that's another way, too. You guys can get yourself in the door. And by the way, the other part of this Coors game weather concerns, there was yesterday. That game played after like a 3-hour delay. So I don't know if this was you. Did you play the slate last night, Neil?
I did play the slate last night, and I played that game, and I felt so good about it going in.
So the inverse for me was that I did not play the game.
Yeah.
And I felt really good about it. And then all of a sudden it started like, oh my God, this is going to absolutely kill me. And then the game, absolutely nothing happened. And I was like, boy, what a bad beat for the people that were able to navigate the weather and play it, only for that game to not score like any runs. 4-3 was the final score in that one. But anyway, none of the Coors game weather concerns for today. Although I did look ahead to, I think it was tomorrow's weather. It looks like that it's going to be an issue.
There's a little bit of weather concerns today, but I'm still playing it.
Yeah, it's not one that, like, yesterday I took the game out of my player pool entirely. There's nothing that's having me, lower exposure to it or anything.
Earlier in the day, so I did my my lineup generator video, and at the time that I made that, I was pretty concerned. And I mentioned it in the video, you're gonna have to keep your eye on it. It's looking better than it did this afternoon. So yeah, I'm not really concerned about it at this point.
Fat Star has left this super chat. He says he's a 444 ticket to the monster on FanDuel. Any tips on how to use the Sims tool to get the lineup right to play? Yeah, so let me see how many entries are there for the monster. All right, so the monster on FanDuel has, I believe it's around 500. 767. All right, so here's what you should be doing, Fat Star. Build lineups in Fantasy Cruncher that match the field's exposure, right? So you want it more or less to be your exposure column to match what we are projecting in terms of ownership. And then build out 1,000 lineups, because there's different amounts of lineups you can build. You want the amount of lineups that most closely mirrors the field that you're playing. And for large field tournaments, I'm building out 10,000 lineups now, because that's the most you can do. If you're in a lineup, a contest that's 500, you do 500, 1,000, 1,000. 767, it's in between 500 and 1,000, but I go towards the 1,000 for that. So build 1,000 lineups with your ownership closely matching the field, but still building stacks, right? Make 4-man stacks over for FanDuel. And then once you've built out 1,000 lineups that are matching the field's exposure, export those lineups, upload them into the Sims tool, and then pick out the one that has the highest projected ROI. That's how I think you should go about doing it.
Or pick your favorite from those that have the highest ROI if they're
and also if they're very close, because that'll happen sometimes too, where I'll run my lineups through this, and I'll share right now. So like my 3 highest projected lineups today have a 95.6% projected ROI, 93% projected ROI, 90.8%. Like there's very little difference between them. In that kind of scenario, I'll kind of look at it and I'll be like, hey, which one do I think maybe the ownership would be a little bit different in a higher stakes single entry? It might be in large field tournaments. So that's another way I'll do it. Or if it's just like you said, Neil, maybe I just like the Padres as a stack more than the Rockies or something like that. Then I may be more inclined to go to a team that I just prefer for whatever reason. Maybe their top stack odds are a little bit higher. Maybe it's due to an ownership concern, something like that. But yeah, I would say pick the highest projected ROI. And if there's 3 or 4, just compare the ones that have the 3 or 4 highest projected ROI and pick the one that you're most comfortable with. And I think that's a pretty good way to go about and approach it. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. We just got the Rockies lineup in, and still no Pirates. I am 2 minutes until we get to my prediction.
You're about to owe me $500.
Could be. Oh, I thought it was 1,000.
Oh, you're right. It was 1,000.
Yeah, that's what it was. Watch it come out right on the dot.
Yeah.
I'm running hot with weird predictions. So my big prediction last night, Neil, was that in the first inning, because Eric and I were making weird predictions.
Two stolen bases, right?
I said Jose Altuve would have a single in the first inning and then would steal second base. And he did it.
Wow.
I think that's going to be my best prediction. It absolutely benefited me nothing, right? There was no way I could benefit off that, but it was probably my best prediction of the year.
That is pretty awesome. Yeah. I mean, they're playing in Syndergaard, right?
Yes.
It was a good prediction.
I'll never do it again, but at least for last night, it was a good way to victory lap something that I had no monetary benefit from at all. I was even underweight to the field on Jose Altuve last night, which was also
that's brutal.
Not had a nice game there with a couple stolen
So you got to take your victory laps, because that's all you get out of it.
Yeah. There was nothing to be had but victory laps outside of that. Cheap starting pitching. Lance Lynn projected for 47% ownership, and then we'll talk about some of the pitchers over on FanDuel as well. But Lance Lynn projected for 47% ownership. He's the most popular pitcher on the slate. I've given my case for him. He's my most rostered player of the entire night. For yourself, though, Neil, who are you going to be looking at as your most rostered cheap pitcher? Is it Lance Lynn or is it somebody else?
So I thought it was for sure going to be Lance Lynn. I am actually underweight to the field on Lance Lynn. I have a ton of Josiah Gray, and I don't really know why. I mean, I guess I do know why exactly. It's because he's cheap and he allows you to pay up for those Padres bats. I currently Josiah Gray is actually my highest owned pitcher, even over Spencer Strider. Even after I gave Josiah Gray a negative boost and gave Spencer Strider a positive boost, I still have more Josiah Gray than anybody else on the slate. He's coming in at just 2% ownership, 12% chance of being the top 2 value pitcher on the slate, 4% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. I don't love having as much as I have. I think that he is a good, decent play. I don't love having over 40% currently of Josiah Gray, but that is where I'm landing right now. I'm at only 26% Lance Lynn, which, it's 20% less than the field. It's still, a lot of Lance Lynn, but 20% less than the field it's a little bit scary, but still enough that if he does well, I'll have outs.
Yeah, and by the way, lots of questions today. Super chats, questions in Discord. So let's get to the Discord questions after this. One more super chat from Jamal Parker, who says, "Is Ryu pitching?" And sorry if I'm late on this. Yes, Ryu is going to be making his season debut, coming back from Tommy John surgery. I don't have enough faith in the pitch count to be rostering him today, but he will be pitching. Jamal, we're going to have Hyunjin Ryu out on the mound. Now, by the way, weird. 2 people at basically the exact same time in our Discord chat asked us about Texas stacks. Gangrene and Einstein wanted to know what we make of Texas as a stack today. And if we go ahead and look at Texas, let's see what I have for them as far as exposure. Now, one thing I'm going to add as a caveat, if any team on the slate is not the San Diego Padres or the Colorado Rockies, I don't have a ton of exposure to them.
Yeah,
I'm getting to they make up 3/4 of my exposure is stacks of Coors Field. So the Texas Rangers, I have them hardly any. I have them in 1.3% of my 150 lineups. So that is 2 out of 150 lineups for me have the Texas Rangers as a stack. It's really hard for me to get away from Coors Field. I think that people might be a little bit lower on it than they should be after what happened last night. The weather concerns and the game being a dud. I think it's the best game to target on the entire slate. I don't really have a whole lot of stack exposure beyond them, but Texas Rangers, is this a team you're playing in any kind of considerable way?
So not really, but I do like them. So they're actually, I only made like 4 drafted 4 lineups on Underdog, and they were one of the 4 stacks that I went after, because you can draft them like any 5 combo that you want, just draft them because they go have ADPs at the end of the drafts. I do think that they're in a great spot. I mean, matchup with Schultens is a good spot. Obviously, they have 5+ run implied total. There's a lot to like about Texas today. If you want to play the Rangers, I don't hate it at all. I'm in the same boat as you are, Greg, where I'm playing a lot of the Padres. Like I'm overweight to the field on the Padres because they look so good in our tools. So then that necessarily means that I'm going to be underweight to every other team, I think. So not playing a ton, but I don't hate it. Like if you're hand building a lineup and you make a lineup with Texas that you like, all for it.
So the Pirates lineup came out at 6:33 Eastern time.
Oh,
I'm counting that as a win for myself. I'm counting that as a win for myself.
This isn't, no, you said 6:32. I took the over, so I won.
You went with 6:49 though.
Different games we're playing, I guess.
And I have a feeling that I could find one person who tweeted the lineup out at 6:32.
I doubt it.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Now I'm just scrolling Twitter looking for people who tweeted about the Pirates lineup at 6:32. All right, I win. We've got some more questions in the Discord channel. By the way, the next one is coming from Just Locks. Justin wants to know, besides Strider, who do you, Neil, like the most over at FanDuel pitcher GPP? So to me, Lance Lynn is not nearly as appealing on FanDuel as he is on DraftKings. He's still really popular, second most popular pitcher on the slate, 21.1% owned, but he's $9,400. Still certainly playable. But to me, the 21% ownership is a little bit high when he's 9,400 instead of 7,900, which I think this really goes to show, by the way, how cheap he is on DraftKings, because he's $9,400 on FanDuel and still chalk. And that's on a single pitcher site. So Lance Lynn is a good option, but I do like being underweight to the field. If I look at some of the other options that we have over on FanDuel, if I'm looking to get different, I would go with Andrew Heaney at $7,900, sub 10% ownership against the Chicago White Sox. He has strikeout upside. The White Sox are now a team that's more or less tanking, that they traded away a bunch of pieces. So Heaney, $7,900 for me on FanDuel is the pitcher that I like getting to if I'm going to go cheap and differentiate a little bit. If you have to pick a pitcher over for FanDuel, Neil, who is not Strider, it could be Lance Lynn, maybe somebody else. Who would you gravitate towards?
Yeah, I love the call of Andrew Heaney just because he's so cheap and still looks really good. Yeah, it's hard for me. Like I see Pablo Lopez has some positive leverage, 3% projected ownership, 6% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. He's just like not cheap enough relative to Spencer Strider that I could see myself clicking it all that often. So I do think that I think I'm with you. Like if you're going away from Strider, you probably want to go to a completely different price range, and it would probably end up being Lance Lynn. I think I like your calls. Lance Lynn and Andrew Heaney are the best of their respective price ranges. I don't really see anybody else that is like really standing out to me as a great value. You could go to Carlos Rodon, I guess, is the same price as Andrew Heaney, kind of in that same price range. Maybe he's another option, but he's getting the same amount of ownership, lower odds of being the top pitcher. So probably be Heaney over Rodon for me, but that would probably be my next in line after Strider, Lynn, and Heaney would be Carlos Rodon. And then maybe I'd consider a Pablo Lopez because, Spencer Strider does have some blow up games every once in a while where he doesn't hit. And in that case, you could take advantage by getting 50, 60 burger on FanDuel out of Lopez or Framber Valdez.
Jordan, I'm going to need you to do me a favor. Go to the underdog_MLB Twitter handle. I would like you to pull up the Pirates lineup, and the timestamp on that is going to be very pertinent.
I thought you already told us the timestamp on that. Did I get hustled?
Yeah, you did. Wait until this. And then share the screen with Neil and I when you do this work as well, Jordan. Oh, boys. Neil about to be disappointed. But by the way, remember. What does that say there? Click on the tweet. Expand it a little. Oh, 31. Look at this. So this is going to be 2 days in a row that I have a great prediction with no monetary.
Here's the confusion. Here's the confusion, Greg. I am in Central Time, so I was doing it, based on. Wait, shit. Damn it. Never mind. Doesn't work for me.
He's actually on Korean time. You're
right.
way on the other side.
Well done. You nailed it.
All right. Two days in a row that I have a completely useless prediction that's helped absolutely nobody, but definitely makes me feel good about my cognitive, what's the predictive abilities? Yeah.
Predictive abilities, sure.
All right. So there we go. We've got all that nailed down now. As for other pitchers, and I don't really view too much else different about the FanDuel versus DraftKings slate. Strider's still my favorite option over on FanDuel, especially because he's 11,300 as opposed to the 12,500 price on DK. But who are the other cheap pitchers that you're getting to meaningfully
on DraftKings? So I mean, Josiah Gray, as I mentioned, I'm getting to a ton there. Let me get back to my player exposures. It is by far Josiah Gray. Give me 1 second though. Got to scroll down. I'm still getting used to how to read things in the simulator tool, which is where I have my lineups now. As far as cheap pitchers go, I'm getting to some 8% Jose Quintana, 42% Josiah Gray now. That's after I negative boosted him a bit. I do have some Carlos Rodon, 10% Carlos Rodon, 10% Oviedo, 4% Justin Steele. I'm pretty spread out. Like I don't have a ton of exposure to any of the cheap pitchers outside of Josiah Gray. How about you with the cheap guys?
I have so much Lance Lynn right now that so Josiah Gray, by the way, is a contrarian pitcher I'm getting behind as well. He's easy to be overweight to the field too. He's only projected for 2.6% ownership. I've been overweight to Josiah Gray probably on every single slate he's pitched on in the second half of the year. Sometimes for the best, sometimes for the worst, but that's kind of where you're getting. If a pitcher is he's always 2-3% owned. But he has some upside. He's always cheap. He's never popular. I'm overweight to Josiah Gray. As for other cheap pitchers, let's see. So Josiah Gray, I'm playing a lot of the chalky pitcher today. Strider and Lynn. Like I get to Heaney. I'm underweight to Heaney. He's in my player pool, but I don't have as much from him as the field does. I have him in 15% of lineups.
I do have 26% Lynn too. So I guess I do have a pretty significant amount there.
I'm underweight to Oviedo, who's popular. Yeah, so the only pitchers that I'm really significantly overweight to are Lance Lynn and Josiah Gray.
Yeah. Oh, so you're also significantly, I guess Josiah Gray's coming to like 2% ownership, so it doesn't take all that much.
If you have 10% of your lineups, you're 5x the field.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm significantly overweight too, Josiah Gray. No other pitcher that I'm actually significantly overweight to that I can see.
All right. So let's go then. And anything else you want to bring up at pitcher? If not, we'll build some lineups in the lineup generator.
No, I think that we have covered the most interesting pitchers. I mean, similarly, I mean, we talked about Framber Valdez a little bit. Like, he does look like a nice contrarian option, even though we're not playing him. Similar Pablo Lopez. So there are other contrarian pay up options that you could go to, but yeah, I'm just playing a ton of Spencer Strider. So yeah, nothing else really to say about pitchers.
All right. So let's go ahead, Jordan, and build some lineups in the MLB lineup generator. If you guys have not checked this out yet, over at our site, this is just the most beginner-friendly DFS tool that you're going to find anywhere, and especially on our website. And I think it's a really good way to get your way, just get a foot in the door for MLB DFS. You know, you build lineups in the MLB lineup generator, you find some success, then maybe you go out and you start playing around with our projections and ownership and all of that, and you start building some of your own lineups. And then from there, get into the Sims tool that Neil and I are using to build out our lineups. But as far as this goes, if you guys are using it for the first time and want to sign up, use the link that we have below, because it is going to get you access to this tool for less than $5. So great deal when you're signing up for the lineup generator for the first time. Jordan, let's go DraftKings. We'll build balanced lineups for today.
We got a request to run some a few contrarian lineups before lock 2. I mean, if we have time, Apollo the King would like to see some contrarian. I actually tried yesterday because I was trying to lower my exposure to the Padres, and I still got to a ton of that Coors game, even running contrarian lineups for what it's worth. So
when you build contrarian lineups, the stack itself might not necessarily be contrarian, but the pitcher might be contrarian. You might get one-offs that are contrarian. Oh boy, yeah. Look, I mean, just all the Strider and Lynn, particularly Lynn, but a lot of Strider as well. I don't have any issues with that. Lots of Padres in here. Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, Juan Soto, Ha-Sung Kim, Trent Grisham. By the way, Ha-Sung Kim is like 9th in baseball and wins above replacement this year. He's been incredible.
Is he really? Wow.
Yeah. Because he's one of the best infielders in terms of defense, and he also has like a 127 WRC plus, playing really elite defense. So super, super valuable this year.
Have the Padres turned it around recently? I know they started really poorly relative to their roster.
I think they are, last I looked at FanGraphs, they have like a 35% chance to make the playoffs.
Jeez, that's rough for that roster.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. All the Padres. If we keep scrolling down, some Heaney there. Then we're starting to get some of the Rockies, Profar, Tovar, some Cubs. Go back to the stack exposures for a second, Jordan. Yeah, so 71% Padres, 21% Rockies, then some Mets, some Pirates. But yeah, Coors Field reigning supreme in our lineups. Is that the same for you, Neil?
Yeah, I'm getting to just a ton of the Padres. I actually didn't notice if I got to a lot of the Rockies. I should look at that as well. I mean, they look pretty good, but I know I was getting to a ton of the Padres. Let's see. Yeah. So yes, to the Rockies, or sorry, to the Padres. I'm trying to figure out how much exactly of the Rockies I have as far as stacks go. Oh, here we go. Stack exposures.
Yeah, I have them a little over 30% of my lineups.
I have 14% Rockies 5-man stacks, 4% 4-man stacks, and 10% 3-man stacks for the Rockies.
So what did that add up to overall?
28%.
Okay, so like in the ballpark the same way. I'm a little over 30%.
And then for the Padres, I have 40% 5-man stacks, 18% 3-man stacks, and 6% 4-man stacks. So a total of 64% of the pods.
All right. Which Pirates players are in my lineups that I have to take out? All right. Henry Davis. Can't have him in. All right. This is workable. I'll figure this out. Let's go and build out some FanDuel lineups now, Jordan. Let's see what is popping up on the FanDuel side of things. Let's do contrarian for FanDuel. Let's see what happens if we go contrarian. Somebody did request it, and why not, right? We built some balanced lineups for DraftKings. Let's see what happens if we select contrarian option for FanDuel. I did see one pirate at least. Oh, more pirates. Ooh. All right. Pirates. Did
you see anybody you were going to have to take out of your lineup for the Pirates?
Yeah, just Henry Davis, which is not really an issue. So just
a lot of Rockies.
him and some other guys.
Tons of Rockies on FanDuel. We have 50% Rockies stacks. That's interesting. They must be cheap on FanDuel.
I'm getting to a lot of, like I said, though, I get to a lot of Rockies and Padres on both sides. But yeah, they're super cheap on FanDuel. I mean, their offense is absolute dog shit, but like these hitters are all sub 3K on FanDuel.
Yeah, they have. So on FanDuel, 3% projected ownership for the Rockies, 6% chance to be in the top value stack, 7% chance to be in the top stack. Pedro Vila pitching for the Pods. Nice spot.
One thing that is also kind of funny looking through these lineups is now like a lot of the players that are in the player pool as being on the Pirates are not actually on the team anymore. Where like I was just trying to switch out like some Henry Davis to other guys and whatnot, and then it's giving me like G-Man Choi as an option, but G-Man Choi isn't on. He was just traded. He isn't on the team.
Right.
All right.
Yeah,
let's
not
see.
ideal.
Do I have anything else I need to change? Looks like I've got my Pirates lineup sorted now. I think I'm good to go.
I suppose I should do a once over of my lineups too.
Anything you're noticing as a surprise here, Neil? Lots of Strider. We're getting to Lance Lynn as well. So, 40% Strider. I absolutely think that he's the best pitcher to get to over on FanDuel. Lance Lynn at 25%. Anything else of note that you're noticing there?
Yeah, I mean, the pitcher is going exactly as we were expecting. The biggest surprise to me is how much of the Rockies were getting. 50%. I guess it's only 20 lineups, so pretty small sample size, but getting 50% exposure to Rocky stacks is unexpected. That we're getting more of them than the Padres is probably my biggest surprise. Good to see that we're getting some Texas here in terms of the stacks. Yeah, no, I think probably Colorado definitely the biggest surprise for me, but overall I'm happy with those different type of spread of stacks there.
All right, so let me go back and check our Discord to make sure there weren't any questions that I missed in there. We're caught up on all of the super chats, but over in Discord, we have a couple of questions here. One from Einstein. He wants to know, do I like Justin Steele tonight? A little bit too expensive for me. There's just other options I prefer, but Justin Steele, somebody you got to. Let's see. I have him. Yeah, I hardly have any Justin Steele apps. I like him in general. There's just a lot of stud pitchers on this slate that I think are better than him to pay up for.
Yeah, I don't think I got to any. Let me see. I'm just realizing that all of my players that I have in my player pool that I get out of are the A's. I have a ton of the A's apparently.
Okay.
Shane Langoliers I got to get out of there. Let me see.
Well, that's not really urgent though, because the only one, if you built lineups before the show, the only thing you really need to change is any Pirates hitters.
Okay. Yeah, I should. Good point.
Everything else you should be
urgent. Justin Steele. I'm not. Oh yeah, I have. I'm in the ROI section. Sorry, I'm still not that. So even when I like,
but so something funny about because Neil being so polite, he's apologizing to me because his lineups have players that are missing.
No, I'm apologizing because I can't figure out how to answer your question. Like I'm still figuring out how to use the Sims tool because I do use the lineup generator when I'm using like making 20 or fewer lineups generally. So I have 4% Justin Steele is the answer.
All right. Yeah. So not really any kind of real priority for me either. And once again, not an issue with him individually as much as just there's a lot of pitchers to pay up for. And the other question we have here is from Gang Green. Thoughts on Rodon? He looked better last start. I have some exposure to him, but also not anything significant. I'm playing the chalky pitch today. I'm an absolute chalk donkey today. I haven't done that a ton this year in baseball. I've built a lot of contrarian laps. Not today. I'm chalky as shit. So Carlos Rodon, I'm not really getting to. And I do feel a little bit more optimistic after how he looked in his last start, but still, he hasn't looked as good pitching for the Yankees as he has in previous years. He dealt with injuries in the offseason, got a late start to the season. So, yeah, Carlos Rodon for me, not really making it into a bunch of my lineups. How about Rodon for you? Because we did get that question here from Gang Green.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of Rodon. I like to play. Like I think that Rodon looks like it's obviously a tough spot, but still I think that Rodon is a fine play. I actually have 10%, so I have a little bit of Rodon. I'm actually over the field. 10%.
Okay. All right, so you're overweight to the field on Rodon then. Let's see. Anything else I want to change? Not right now. Next question we have in Discord is from Heflove. He says, strangely, Tommy Pham was in a few lineups at the beginning of the show through the lineup generator. I guess it hasn't gone through yet. Let's see. Tommy Pham.
Yeah, I have no idea if there's how much of a struggle it was going to be for our guys to update stuff with all the trades and stuff. Like, I imagine it's a little bit different process than usual. So maybe they're struggling with some of the updating some stuff.
It'll all be updated. It'll all be updated. Einstein wants to know, can we consider a Baltimore stack in single entry? Yeah, if I go through my lineups that are not Coors Field, I do get to some of Baltimore. The main thing here is that, like, we just don't know what we're getting out of Hyun-Jin Ryu, right? There was a point in time he was a good pitcher, but he wasn't all that great last year. We know that he's coming back from Tommy John surgery. I think Baltimore makes sense, if nothing else, from they're not popular today, and they're going up against a pitcher that we just don't know that we're getting, what we're getting out of after the long time off. So I have some exposure to Baltimore, nothing crazy, but they're in my player pool. And a lot of it too is just, uncertainty with the Hyun-Jin Ryu coming back from injury. Do you get to Orioles stacks at all?
I have a little bit of the Orioles. I actually like them. I was going to give them a boost. I guess I have 4% 5-man stacks, 4% 3-man stacks for the Orioles, which is probably fine. I thought about actually giving them a little bit of a boost just because I like, the situation, a little bit of an unknown with Rio, what we're going to get there. I like the Orioles stack in general. So I do like the idea of playing the Orioles, even though I'm not playing a ton.
All right, let me export these lineups and time to play them. I think I should probably upload them. Always the forgotten piece of this that you don't want to forget about when you're building lineups is uploading them over to DraftKings and/or FanDuel, or else building them really doesn't do you any good.
Apparently, the A's have Cody Thomas, who's 2,300 in the outfield in the 4-hole. So pretty easy swap there. Happy with that.
I mean, other than that, I'm playing a lot of Lance Lynn. If it wasn't for
well, yeah. What in the lineups where you're playing the A's?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
Not particularly. So now, Neil, we're getting to a lot of Coors Field. We've addressed this over the course of the show. Padres, Rockies, I don't think we need to beat a dead horse with this. These are my two most stacked teams on the entire slate. Just to confirm, same for you, Padres and Rockies, two most stacked teams?
Yes, I believe so. I know the Padres are definitely my most stacked. Let's see. Yep, they're my two most.
So then the other part of this is, if you're not playing Coors Field, what's the team you're getting to the third most? Because we're not only playing Coors Field, there's other teams that are making into our lineups as well. Who are those other teams that stand out to you?
So if you include 3-man stacks as well as all the other stacks, it's actually Oakland. I have 12% Oakland right now, which not something that I was like aiming to do. I actually like Lance Lynn, but I guess you do have a little bit of positive, playing against a pitcher who's getting a lot of exposure. There's some benefit to that. I'm sure that, the Sims tool obviously can see how much the pitcher ownership the pitcher's getting as well. So Oakland looks good from that perspective. Also playing, I've got 10% of the Cubs, a little bit there. And as I said, I do have 8% Baltimore. So I guess I have a little bit there. But yeah, because I am, like we said at the beginning of the show, because I'm so overweight to the Padres, and then I have so much of Colorado, I really am not getting to that much of any other team on the slate.
Yeah, I have. By the way, what percentage of your lineups, now that you are presumably close to making the final iteration of your lineups, what percentage of your lineups are allocated towards Padres and Rockies stacks?
So I can't see like how much I have of the combos, but I have 64% Padres stacks overall, and then I've got 28% Rockies stacks as well. How about you?
Yeah, so for me, it wound up being 35% Padres, 34% Rockies, and I only have one other team that I'm getting double-digit exposure to. Care to guess which team that is?
Outside of the Rockies and the Padres, let me see. I would have to guess the Braves.
It is the Dodgers for me. Ended up with 11% of the Dodgers. And one thing that I do think changed my lineups a little bit was once Ken Waldichuk was confirmed as the starter. He has been not great this year. And also, whenever I'm getting to the Dodgers, like, it's never anything that I'm going to be upset about. If I'm getting to the Dodgers, if I'm getting to the Braves, and that's just what the data gives me, I'm pretty cool with that, because these are the two best offenses that we have in baseball, in my opinion. They're both Really, really strong options. And then also when it comes to the Dodgers, they're projected for, some ownership here, 9.6%. So fairly high, nothing crazy. The ownership, by the way, it's not high at all. Like the Rockies are very contrarian stacked. The Rockies are only projected for 4.2% ownership. That's a very contrarian team to get to.
Yeah.
And the Padres, by the way, they're projected for 14.8% ownership. We have them with a 21.9% chance to be the top scoring team of the day.
Yeah.
So I think both those teams, it's very rare that Coors Field is projected to be this under-owned for us. So it's one of the main reasons I really like getting to it. But there are cheap pitchers we like. Lance Lynn, very cheap. We talked about Josiah Gray if you want to be contrarian at pitcher. Andrew Heaney is somebody who's picking up some ownership, but still also makes sense to get to. So with all that being considered, the Dodgers with like a Heaney and Lance Lynn combination of pitcher, it's not that hard to pay up for them.
No, not at all. Man, Guitar Z-Man just saying that I might have low testosterone now because I'm 40. I don't even know what he's talking about.
Yeah. What are you talking about? He's 50.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Have you thought about doing steroids?
Yeah, of course I've thought about doing steroids. I'm 40 years old.
Yeah. I don't know. So I'm fairly certain I'm going to do HGH at some point in my lifetime. Because why not?
For all the athletic activities.
I want to be one of those 85-year-old guys with a hard cock. That's my goal. That's my goal at the end of it.
Does HGH help you with that?
Yeah, because you replenish your TRT, so testosterone replacement therapy, right? Like yes, I want to be in my 80s with the testosterone of a 20-year-old.
Me too. I mean, that's all of our goal.
Yeah. So I don't know, right? Like I don't know what it feels like to be 50 because I'm not a man of your advanced age, Neil. But I guess it depends do you feel differently when you get up in the morning now that you did when you were 40?
That's I'm not gonna entertain this conversation, Greg. I'm not gonna feed into this. I'm a young man. I'm only 40 years old, and I feel great. I feel wonderful every morning. I wake up. That's everybody knows I'm a morning person. I just wake up with a pep in my step.
So here's how you know that Neil's really getting older. He doesn't even know how old he is. His memory's going. He's forgotten his age.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
I've got you trapped in a corner now.
There's nothing I can say. Let's talk about this slate. Let's talk some Lance Lynn.
You're really trying to pivot here. Are there any really super low owned teams that you're getting to? Like any teams that are 2-3% owned? I know you mentioned the Oakland A's as a leverage team, and I'm not going there, but whenever you're getting a team that's 1% owned against a pitcher that's nearly 50% owned, I understand why it would just make sense from a leverage standpoint. But are there any of these other super low owned teams that you're getting to?
So not that I'm actually getting to, there are some that I would probably get to a little bit more if I were not on a show and playing 150 lineups. Like I do really like the idea of, Colorado is actually only 3% owned. So I guess I am getting well above weight to Colorado and they're fairly low. I really do like the idea of playing some Baltimore. I think that they are going underweight at 1% projected ownership, 4% chance of being the top value stack, 3% chance of being the top stack. And I just like the unknowns. Like I think they could really blow up Ryu if things are going well for them. Toronto coming in at 2% ownership. They don't really stand out from a top stacks perspective, but they're a team that I think always has the ability to put up a lot of runs. I'm not really scared of Kyle Bradish, so I do have some interest in a very low owned Toronto team. I'd say those are the two like really low owned teams that are standing out to me. Atlanta coming in at 2% ownership. Actually, I only got to 3-man stacks of Atlanta, and I kind of don't love that. They're coming in 2% ownership, 6% chance to be in the top stack. I actually think Atlanta is another team that I might think about targeting in single entry. Like how often is Atlanta not feels like Atlanta is the top stack 5 out of 7 days. I know that's not actually true, but they clearly are the top stack way more often than they should be, and they're coming in at 2% ownership. So they're another team that's coming in with very low ownership that I would have interest in. Are there any contrarian stacks that you like?
So by the way, I'm overweight to the field on the Braves as well. I have more of the Dodgers, but I'm overweight to the field on the Braves. Not a difficult team, like you said, to get overweight to. They're only 2% owned. How are prostate exams, by the way? Do you enjoy them?
Everybody enjoys them, of course.
Yeah, I request them frequently. Not even when I go to the doctor either. It's like, hey, I'm at McDonald's. Hey, prostate exam. I'll order it off the menu.
Isn't that actually a thing though? For when you turn,
yeah, they have it on the dollar menu.
Oh, when you turn 40, I believe I heard at one point that you turn 40, you have to get a prostate exam. I think that's like a thing that I thought, many years ago. I don't know if that's true anymore. Like I haven't actually heard that in recent days. But at my birthday party this weekend, one of my friends asked me, "So do you have a prostate exam plan?" I was like, "Oh shit, God, I hope not." Like, I hope that's not something I have to do now.
They're not the best. So because I have to have that kind of, it's funny. That kind of stuff I've had to have done, for colonoscopies, prostate exams. I've gone through all of that. The prostate exam is a little bit uncomfortable, but it's not the end of the world. Lube suggested. Sometimes you get a rough doctor who he's doing it. Sure. And it's also weird when he does it and you can see both his hands up in the air. That raises some concerns for sure. But the prostate exam, it's not too terrible. The first time it'll catch you off guard, the feeling of it, but it's not the end of the world.
I just
super chat from Jordan Klein. I'm sorry, Neil, it will be okay.
Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate
you. Just take your medicine every day and everything will work out.
Funny how EMAC disappeared as we've been talking about being old.
Yeah, if there's any, EMAC should be the aforementioned expert in this field.
I know. And yet where is he now?
He's nowhere. He's getting his prostate checked.
Must be.
Anything else in terms of stacks that you want to talk about that we didn't hit on? If not, we'll do some home run picks, and then we're done for the night.
Yeah, no, I think we hit on all of the most important stacks. I'm ready to do some home run picks. Actually, I'm not ready, but I will be in 20 seconds after I go through my process real quick.
So Neil's about to do his very top secret super process of figuring out his home run pick. No Coors Field today, though, Neil. You're not allowed to do Coors Field.
That's a good point.
So outside of Coors Field, who is it? Who are you picking a homer today?
All right, not quite there yet. I'm getting there. Be there momentarily. Do you have a home run pick that you're ready to give? Or
let's see. Home run pick of the day for myself. Boy, a lot of my exposure is to this Coors Field game, huh? All right, how far down do I have to scroll until I get a hitter?
I've got one ready. If you and I don't.
All right, go ahead. I've got one here too, but I think it's too chalky, so I'm not going to go with it.
I like my guy Mookie Betts, who I think has about a 32% chance of hitting a home run tonight.
I'm going to go with Jack Sawinski. So I wanted to find the Pirates hitter I have the most exposure to, just because I've already hit on one Pirates over-under today. Why not hit on a second? Jack Sawinski, over 0.5 homers. And that is going to do it for us today, guys. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up at BetMGM and you want 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum, sign up using that link below. 1 month, you get access to all of our tools and data for every single DFS sport out there. So go check that out. And if you or anybody you know has a gambling problem or a prostate issue, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. I've heard that number will also take care of those kind of issues. For everybody else, thank you very much for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're ever on the go and want to listen to our shows in podcast form, got a podcast channel as well, Stochastic Daily Fantasy. So check that out as well. Guys, have a great night. See you back here tomorrow.